Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching first part of What If Naruto Was Not a Jinchūriki. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Loneliness is possibly the most agonizing thing that can happen in the world. More terrifying than facing the most formidable opponent in battle is the thought of being alone and having no one to care about your survival. A person's core is eroded by the sense of loneliness and forced isolation, which fundamentally alters his way of thinking. Yes, it is truly a nightmare to be by yourself, without anything to call your own, and without anyone to call your friend. Shivering and isolated from the weather, Naruto trudged home through the snow. I'm by myself. Always by themselves. He had numb feet. He had lost all feeling, and every single fiber in his body was completely numb. He had no one to look after him and nowhere to go. Even though he was only a child, no one spared him a pitying glance. Those eyes were always angry and afraid, but maybe more afraid than angry. He had no idea why. He reasoned that it might be his unusual blue eyes or his distinctive blonde hair, which only the Yamanaka clan had. However, you never witnessed the Yamanakas receiving angry glares. Despite feeling the effects of the cold on his body, Naruto ignored them. He had every intention of surviving, and his face was a mask of resolve. The villagers frequently subjected him to abuse, so he was not new to it, but seeing those faces twisted in anger at his presence, he wanted to survive at all costs in order to get even with them. He aspired to live and become the world's strongest person. Despite his unwavering resolve, Naruto's body was no longer able to withstand the weather. He had barely eaten anything since being expelled from the orphanage for no apparent reason only a week prior. He willed with all his strength to keep walking through the forest, but his body did not react to the crippling effects of starvation on his thin body. He did not give up, even when he collapsed. It would be foolish to give up his determination, which was all he had anyway. Naruto lifted his chin off the ground and surveyed his surroundings while lying face first in the snow. He was blinded by the snow, but he no longer felt the sting of cold because his body had lost so much feeling. He was looking around with drooping eyes when he noticed a tiny hole beneath a tree not 2 meters away. Although the hole was tiny, the child's undernourished body could easily fit inside. I'm dead anyhow if my body doesn't fit, Naruto thought. Naruto used his remaining strength to drag himself toward the hole with his chin. As he rolled into a ball and slipped into the hole, he passed out, and Naruto realized, in despair, that he would never be able to wake up again. The blonde boy was awakened by a faint scraping sound. He felt very warm, as though he were alive, for some reason. Hold on. He was still living. He felt very alive, but he had no way of proving it. He was alive, but he felt weak, as if he were about to die. He opened his eyes and felt around in the dark with his hand. He touched something that was furry of some kind. The furry things moved, much to his surprise. He was astonished, if not frightened. Only the whiteness of the snow and the chill of death remained in his starved mind. Thinking that the furry things must be animals, he attempted to get to his feet but discovered that he was in a tiny hole. A tiny smile crossed his lips as he realized that the death god would not take him today. The warmth that had rescued him from the brink of death had come from the body heat of the numerous small furry animals. Naruto looked into the darkness of the night through the hole. Naruto had little relief from the dead and chilly winter night. He pondered whether he had been spared from starvation or death in the cold. Though he could barely see anything, the little furry animals seemed to trust him. Although he may have frightened the small animals in a primal sense, he had done nothing to harm them, so they did not flee into the night. He did the only thing he could to ensure his survival after realizing he had discovered a food source. He consumed the animals uncooked. The blonde grabbed as many of the furry creatures as he could and smashed them to the ground with a strength that came from desperation. He continued to grab and smash until the animals' frantic movements ceased, but he had no idea how many he had managed to get. He brought the carcasses to his lips and bit into them, enjoying the warmth of the blood and satisfying his hunger. It was too dark for him to see what he was eating. He just chewed and bit down, swallowing raw meat, bone, and fur. With his crippling hunger temporarily satisfied, Naruto collapsed to the ground and wiped the warm blood from his face before drifting off to sleep without dreams. The air was tinged with a sharp cold that was not relieved by the afternoon sun. Slowly opening his eyes, Naruto mustered the strength to sit up, only to strike his head. Naruto crawled out of the hole and gathered the strength to stand up, shaking the sleep from his eyes. There was no sign of snow falling today, and the sky was clear. The white snow reflected sunlight, creating a stunning yet lethal image. Feeling the chill pierce his bare feet, Naruto shuddered. When he looked inside the hole again, he saw a scene of carnage and saw that the ground just outside the hole where he had spent the night was red with blood. Dead rabbits were scattered, some lacking large portions of their flesh, and their skulls were smashed in. A great deal of blood had stained there once. Snow, white fur. I guess I consumed those rabbits last night. Fighting the urge to throw up, Naruto thought. He knew he would have to eat more to stay alive because he was still hungry from his ordeal. Until Gigi comes for me, at least. Naruto consumed the sour meal raw, his stomach and heart steeled, his jaws tearing into the blood. Stained fur. Why is the world like this, I wonder? I was abandoned in the forest by those damned villagers who chased me into it. I am fortunate not to have frozen to death. Gigi is unable to follow them. However, he is the village's strongest person. He can definitely help. Most parents, at least, have the disposition to support their children no matter what. For as long as he had lived, Naruto had pondered the whereabouts of his parents and the means of obtaining them. Only the Hokage, whom the blonde lovingly referred to as Gigi, was someone he had ever spoken to without fear. Companionship was foreign to him. He even put up with Naruto's presence when he was around because he understood how much respect he received. He was aware that he was Hokage, which in some way made him the strongest, but he was still unsure of why his Gigi was not protecting him. Naruto made the decision to become the Hokage in order to prove his strength to those who mistreated him. It was agreed that he would request that the Hokage turn him into a ninja tomorrow. No, was not an acceptable response to him. The following day, the third Hokage and head ninja of Konoha, Hiruzen Sarutobi, was furious. He was expelled even from the damned orphanage. Damn it, who can I trust in this village? It was clear that he was wrong when he believed that Naruto would be able to experience at least some of his childhood in the orphanage. He spent most of his time outside the village because he was the strongest ninja there and frequently went on extremely risky but lucrative missions. The villagers would not even attempt to conceal their blatant dislike of the boy who was harboring the Kyuubi demon, despite his desire to see Naruto taken care of. Sarutobi was aware that if he left the boy to the council elders, he would be brainwashed and become a mindless weapon, and the villagers would most likely crucify him rather than put up with his suffering. Naruto was only protected by Sarutobi's role as Hokage, in comparison to what might have happened if he hadn't been present, and he would be damned if he allowed the Yondaime's son to perish in this manner. The Hokage knew he was at the council's mercy, but he was seriously considering killing some of the villagers and setting the orphanage on fire. Being constantly away on missions was detrimental, and the council held the actual authority in Konoha. He was merely a symbolic figure. I can't even safeguard my students, let alone the childhood of an innocent person. The elderly man, dressed entirely in black, wandered the forest in search of Naruto. Only a few minutes later, he felt the boy and discovered him curled up under a tree, sound asleep. He was concerned to see that there was blood all over the place, but he was unable to spot any wounds on Naruto. He made sure everything was okay by quickly inspecting the seal on Naruto's abdomen. Oh! Naruto could kill us all and release the demon if he so desired. A young person shouldn't have to carry such a burden. As it happens, I haven't even sensed the demon chakra since the Yondaime sealed the fox. Sarutobi picked up the sleeping Naruto and shook his head, admiring how serene his face appeared. He was content that Naruto was still alive for the time being. That evening Konoha experienced nightfall and the sky turned pitch black. As Naruto sat atop the Hokage's monument, he was struck by how starkly the beauty of nature contrasted with the brutality and ugliness of human nature. After saving him from the cold, the Hokage informed him that he would be departing once more shortly. Naruto was wise enough not to inquire as to why, because the Hokage appeared to be very worried about him and did not want to worry him too much. Naruto had chosen not to bring up the mistreatment he had endured at the hands of the villagers. He was little more than a bundle of bones, and it was hard to conceal the fact that he was starving. Naruto told the old man that he wanted to become a ninja after they had eaten ramen, but oddly, he got no response. As Naruto sat in silent reflection at that precise moment, he became aware of the Hokage's apparent age and weariness. He had never considered the Hokage to be frail, even though his face was wrinkled and his hair was white. However, he noticed a profound sadness in the Hokage's eyes as he explained to him over that bowl of ramen his goal to become a ninja. The blonde had eaten in silence, not wanting to stir things up anymore. The world seemed to be filled with sadness. While the world below seemed to be drowning in grief and violence, Naruto suppressed the urge to scream at the stars, those sparkling lights in the sky that seemed to sparkle merrily. Unbidden, his mind changed. Was there freedom in the world somewhere? Perhaps he could be a star, floating freely in the sky and viewing the world's events from a divine standpoint. Perhaps he could visit the moon and take a moonlight bath. Instead, he might be able to go to the sun and live a happy life. After all, wouldn't life there be as colorful and full of life because the sun emits such a bright light? The blonde child lay down, yawning, eyes drooping drowsily. After all, people needed to be free. He would soar through the sky and merge with the stars once he was a ninja. 3 years later, as the oldest and strongest clans in the country, the Konoha clans were held in high regard. The Hidden Leaf Village was one of Japan's 5 great hidden villages and had more ninja than any other. More than half of the village was made up of large, sprawling clan houses. These homes' winding hallways and secret trapdoors were a testament to the paranoia that permeates shinobi life. The ancient arts that have been passed down through the generations are practiced by the numerous exotic clans of Konoha, and they are jealously shielded from other clans' prying eyes. With strong hereditary bloodlines like the Sharingan and Byakugan, the Uchiha and Hyuga are the 2 most powerful clans in Konoha. The Uchiha and Hyuga have maintained a fierce rivalry in politics and ninja arts ever since Konoha was established and the Senju, another prominent clan, went extinct. Hinata Hyuga was born into this world of politics and clans. She was born a clan heiress and the eldest daughter of clan head and council elder Hiashi Hyuga. Unfortunately, she never seemed to possess the strength that Hanabi, her younger sister, did. She lacked the confidence of a leader, was physically weak, and always seemed to take longer to learn ninja techniques. They never accepted weakness. She was so tired that her knees felt like they might give out. No matter how hard she tried, it was never enough. She would never live up to her father's expectations, which were excessively high. She hardly maintained her position as she faced her sister. Her younger sister maintained her combat stance, keeping her hands up to deter any attack and her eyes fixed on her opponent. Hinata marveled at Hanabi's perfection despite her weariness. In contrast to the hyperventilating mess Hinata was right now, she showed no signs of fatigue. Just 10 minutes had passed in the match. With their eyes evaluating and calculating, the Hyuga elders were seated around the match area. As they wandered to Hinata, the lavender pupils who displayed possession of the fabled Dujutsu, the Byakugan, displayed disillusionment. That had always been the case. Hanabi was undoubtedly the stronger sister. From the moment of their birth, they had been pitted against one another. Hinata was always destined to be let down. Her father, who had long detested Hinata's inherent weakness, summoned this match. Its purpose was to determine the Hyuga clan's legitimate heir, and the outcome was never contested. Hinata was now fighting for success, at least once in her life, with all of her strength. She used her remaining strength to launch herself at Hanabi, her palms ready for Jiyuken strikes infused with chakra. Hanabi skillfully sidestepped the careless attack, swatted her arm away with an elbow, and positioned herself to finish the fight. Hanabi yelled, 8 trigrams 60. 4 palms, to begin her clan's signature move. 2. 4. 16. 32. 60. 4. Hinata was mercilessly pounded by the blows, which paralyzed her body and blocked her chakra pathways. She collapsed to the ground, defeated, unable to move a muscle. To put it mildly, the elders were taken aback. It was unprecedented that a girl Hanabi's age could execute the technique so perfectly. She was already praised as a clan genius despite having only experienced 5 winters. It is decided then. Hanabi is the victor. She has thus won the right to lead the Hyuga clan. Hinata will be transferred to the branch house immediately, and will be branded with the cursed seal by the end of week. Hanaoko, an elder, said with calmness. The elders left Hinata where she lay and filed out of the area, apparently satisfied with the result. Hiashi led Hanabi out of the area and was the last to depart. With a chilly, unwavering expression, Hiashi stated, "Once again, you show your unworthiness. This marks the end for my expectations of you. From now on, my only daughter is Hanabi. I wash my hands of you and your failures." At last, Hinata found herself on the ground, crying uncontrollably. She had failed once more. She collapsed into a restless slumber, exhausted. Unnoticed throughout the entire scene, a dark figure vanished into the shadows. His Hide.aid briefly came into view, bearing the Kumogakure symbol, before the darkness engulfed him. 3 years had passed since Naruto informed the Hokage of his plans to become a ninja. Since then, the Hokage has tested Naruto's abilities and taught him additional chakra exercises each time he returned from his missions. As a whole, Naruto was average. The Hokage knew he could not defy the clan elder's wishes, so he would not take the chance of sending the clan children to the academy. Naruto lacked any skill in genjutsu, had terrible taijutsu, and had terrible chakra control. Since he was already somewhat proficient in the Bunshin, Kawamiri, and Henge jutsus, Ninjutsu was the only thing he appeared to have passed in. Naruto's only assets were his vast stamina and chakra reserves. Sarutobi kept this in mind even though he knew deep down that Naruto would never be a good shinobi. It would be far too cruel to take away Naruto's dream, which was all he had. Hiruzen Sarutobi had suffered greatly over the previous few years. Due to his inability to keep up with the mission schedule, he frequently returned to Konoha exhausted and nearly dead. He was aware that the council was watching him closely, waiting for him to relinquish his role as Hokage and succumb to his frailty. The council was like power. Hungry vultures in that regard. They were discussing who would become the next Hokage. 3 factions had formed within the council, as far as Sarutobi was aware. Clan head Fugaku Uchiha, possibly the worst and most power. Hungry of all clan heads, clan head Hiashi Hyuga, and former 3rd Hokage candidate Danzo Himura. Because of the factionalism, there was a great deal of mistrust among the shinobi, and Sarutobi was concerned that Konoha's unity was in danger. Unity. That was the Will of Fire's central tenet, to have complete faith in your allies, even if it means dying. The village's foundations were being shaken by the power struggle at the top of Konoha's hierarchy. Already, political ties with the other hidden villages were deteriorating. Our enemies will undoubtedly destroy Konoha if this turns into a full-fledged civil war, Sarutobi thought. Weakness is not acceptable in the harsh world of shinobi. Undoubtedly, division within Konoha's ranks would draw swarms of adversaries to our gates. The Shogun himself would see this as a chance to get rid of us. The 3rd Hokage walked to Naruto's apartment, shaking his head to rid his mind of such gloomy thoughts. In order to give Naruto some peace of mind when he set out on his missions, he had permitted the blonde child to live in an abandoned building on the outskirts of the village and had sealed the perimeter to ensure Naruto's safety. He had an appointment with the blonde today, and being late would not be acceptable. A frustrated Naruto sighed, "Damn it, I just can't get this jutsu right." The blonde was growing tired of training, and the Hokage had been out of town for a month. He had sneaked into the Uchiha clan compound with the intention of playing some practical jokes and possibly stealing a meal or two. Fortunately for him, he was able to take something much more valuable than a complimentary meal. He discovered a clan scroll scattered about while skulking through one of the Uchiha residences. It included their well-known Gukakyo no Jutsu, Great Fireball Jutsu, which delighted him. However, he became careless in his excitement, which is how the Uchiha sentinels found him. They went out of their way to kill him, firing jutsus left and right and destroying much of their own property, but they failed to even fully injure him because they couldn't identify him because he was using his Henge no Jutsu. Stupid people. Naruto laughed and said, "Serves them right." Now, however, he was stuck. Despite his best efforts, he was only able to summon a smudge of smoke. Even though he was certain that he had learned the hand seals by heart, his fucking chakra control was getting in the way once more. His body was suffering because he had been training non-stop for the last day and a half, never stopping to eat or rest. Anger was a feeling he hardly ever experienced. Indeed, he experienced frustration frequently enough. He occasionally experienced sadness during his periods of contemplation. Even when the clan shinobi attempted to separate his head from his body or the villagers mistreated him, he hardly ever felt angry. He had spent his entire life being shunned, so he wasn't particularly annoyed by such behavior. He was actually more lonely than anything else. The anger that now flooded his veins was a result of his refusal to accept the fate that the outsiders in his life had destined for him. They believed he could never succeed and viewed him as a monster, and he was proving them correct. He was every bit the failure he made every effort to avoid because he was unable to replicate such a technique. He was meant to be the strongest, so this would not work. He created the hand seals with a last choked scream, then poured all of his remaining chakra into the technique without even trying to shape it into a shape that could be recognized. He would do it his way, so screw concentration. The fireball that ensued was the largest he had ever seen. The fireball was easily as tall as a building, so he was fortunate that the training ground was located far from any populated areas. As it roared through the forest, the trees caught fire and the ground was scorched. Weak from chakra exhaustion, Naruto struggled to leave the training ground as quickly as he could. He was not allowed to enter the training grounds at all, and the chaos he had created would probably attract more ninja. His desperate attempt to return to the safety of his home was fueled by adrenaline. If he were discovered in such a situation, he would be killed. He instantly fell to the ground, unconscious, as he passed through the seal barrier the Hokage had erected to guard his house. Hard work is rewarded. Occasionally, possibly the most perilous challenge in life is temptation. Conflict and disagreement result from others' desire for money, power, women, and other things. Dissension and disunity are the ultimate results of schisms between friends and family members. Fugaku Uchiha, the clan head, was battling temptation. The Sarutobi clan had dominated the other clans and accumulated its wealth with unbridled jealousy for years, maintaining the most prestigious position of authority in Konoha. Sarutobi clan members were regarded as some of the strongest ninja in Japan because they were said to have an innate talent for manipulating elemental chakra. Many of them were also said to be masters of 4 of the 5 elements: fire, water, wind, lightning, and earth. However, the power of the once great clan had diminished with the passing of time. Konoha was now a shadow of its former self and, due to poor management, was vulnerable to military reprisals from its numerous adversaries. Fighting the samurais had reduced the size of the Sarutobi clan itself, and now the third Hokage was barely holding onto what little power he still had. Ninja casualties and failed assassination attempts were increasing daily, and village security was at an all-time low. Either Konoha was deteriorating, or the samurais had become more powerful. There were rumors going around the countries that Konoha would soon fall and lose its title as the strongest hidden village in all of Japan, according to the Uchiha clan spies. Power was calling out to Fugaku, urging him to accept it and make good on it, but he could take it no more. He would not allow the council to make decisions for him as Hokage, unlike the third, who obediently followed their orders like a dog. One of his competitors, Danzo, was just an elderly man who would not resist his manipulations. He would simply put him to death if everything else failed. Hiashi, that bastard, was his only issue now. Surprisingly, his spies had also discovered important information about Kumogakure activities in Konoha at the moment. 1 week later, Naruto felt very uneasy because of the intense heat of the summer sun beating down on the forest, which increased the humidity levels. The young blonde was honing some new abilities that the Hokage had taught him the previous week, and in keeping with his nature, he was practicing non-stop without ever tiring. Naruto cried out, "So, a shunshin is carried out like this?" "Ah," as he was teleported several meters into the air once more. He thrashed his arms in vain, trying to slow his descent. He hit the forest floor with a violent crunch, taking multiple bruises but escaping unscathed. "Damn it, what is with this jutsu? I always get teleported above my target, again," he cried, focused on his goal at the top of the tree and passing through the hand seals once more. Poof! Once more, he was launched several meters above his intended location before plummeting to the ground a few seconds later. He moaned and forced himself to stand, ready for another attempt, only to discover that he was looking into the face of a girl his age with indigo hair. The girl cried out, "Eep," and spun around to cover her face. The boy said, "Hey, what the hell are you doing so far from the village? Who are you?" "Well, my name is Hinata, from the Hyuga clan. I was just watching you train," the girl said, turning to face the blonde. Wondering if he knew the girl, Naruto examined her features. The girl was quite the shy and timid one, with strange lavender eyes, short indigo hair, and an unmistakable red face. The grayish cross that adorned her head was perhaps her most noticeable feature, but Naruto interpreted it as a fashion statement. "Well, you should respect the privacy of people, plus I'm training, so don't disturb me." "Shoo, go back home," replied Naruto. "Sorry," Hinata said, returning to the village with a dejected gait. Wondering why the girl was observing him, Naruto found himself standing by himself in the clearing. He returned to his training after deciding that he needed to be more watchful going forward in case someone dangerous had the opportunity to threaten him. Nobody is ever harmed by a little caution. That boy with the blonde hair had always been a favorite of Hinata's to watch him train. The repetitive pattern of him trying, failing, and trying again calmed her. His perseverance gave her hope that perhaps one day life would be worthwhile by enabling her to put her anxieties and failures behind her. Her hope had been dashed upon her today. The boy she had been secretly admiring for the past few months had turned her down the minute he laid eyes on her. She would undoubtedly lead an unfulfilling life and seemed to be a magnet for failure. Her freedom, not that she had much before anyway, had ended the day before when she was forced to live in the branch house quarters and branded with the notorious cursed seal. She was now forced to work as a slave for the main house members and was scheduled to receive medical jutsu training upon being enlisted in the Konoha Medical Corps. Continued instruction in the unique methods of the Hyuga main house was not warranted for a failure such as herself. With a sigh, she went into the Hyuga compound and headed for her quarters. As soon as the cooks were done, she had to prepare to serve dinner to the members of the main house. She had just enough time to change and take a shower. She changed into new clothes as she entered her tiny room and turned, only to discover her younger sister entering her chamber. Hinata asked, Hanabi, Sama, what brings you here? Hanabi slid the door shut and sat down on the floor, saying, just wanted to see how you were. Oni. Chan. I told the other servants to excuse you for tonight. We need to talk. Really? How have you been treated? I'm worried about you, Oni. Chan. The atmosphere was lightened by Hinata's laughter. I'm alright. I'm glad you won anyway. I never wanted to become clan head. I would never want to marry some old elder when I turn 18. The sisters reaffirmed their friendship as they talked until nightfall. They had a bond that clan rules could never violate. Unfortunately, they were too preoccupied with their conversation to notice a faint sound that sounded uncannily similar to a human scream. When Kenzo Jiboro withdrew the knife from his victim, the body fell to the ground, leaving bloodstains on the ground. The Hyuga clan heiress was in the branch quarters at the moment, based on what he had learned from bits and pieces of conversation he had overheard from the guards. Outside a branch room, he discovered the usual guard that always accompanied the heiress standing guard, or rather, lazing around, and concluded that the heiress was inside at the moment. Who would have thought that one of the strongest clans in Konoha would be attacked? The guards were obviously slack. Jiboro took advantage of this complacency, but regrettably, his most recent victim was able to make a final strangled cry that signaled his death. He hurriedly gestured for his two friends to storm the room after confirming that no one had learned of his most recent kill. Jiboro and his friends surrounded the two shocked girls inside after ripping the door off with their bare hands. The two girls were knocked unconscious before they could react as the ninja's swift, accurate jabs paralyzed their chakra pathways. Hanzo, take both girls. We'll kill the branch member after we reach Kumo territory. Kali, carry the body outside. We can't afford to leave evidence. I'll stay and clean the blood. We'll meet the Uchihas behind the temple. They said they would secure an exit for us. Jiboro gave the order. His two friends immediately vanished, leaving him by himself. The heiress would be a useful negotiating tool to get the Hyuga's cooperation in upcoming projects. This was merely the prelude to Konoha's demise. Jiboro could sense it in his blood. Kumo would completely demolish the cursed Hidden Leaf village and let the wolves handle what was left of it. The Uchihas' cooperation with them was incredibly stupid. Naruto had completed yet another full day of training. He felt like he was about to pass out from lack of sleep and chakra fatigue after nearly 18 hours of continuous training. After finally performing the Shunshin no Jutsu flawlessly once, he decided to take a break from training to rest. The distinctive rustle of leaves reached the blonde's ears as he was returning to the village. He looked up and saw that 3 ninja were glowing in the moonlight. One of them carried 2 unconscious girls, slung clumsily over his shoulders, and wore a scar over his left eye. He gasped briefly as his keen eyes met one of the girls. She bore a striking resemblance to Hinata, whom he had met only hours earlier. He ignored his weariness and flew after the ninja at full speed, knowing that something was undoubtedly wrong. It's 1 against 3. It looks like the odds are favorable. It would not be the first or the last time he made such a bold and seemingly foolish decision. Fugaku exhaled a calm breath as he sipped his tea in his room. After leading the Uchiha police patrols through the hot afternoon, he was relishing the cool night air. His schemes were taking shape. He would soon gain complete control of the ninja corps and send the Uchihas on a rampage throughout Konoha. Oh. Getting what you want makes temptation much sweeter. He had no idea that he was playing right into the hand of a certain missing nin with sharp teeth. Well, a bigger fish is always out there. Much of what we do in life is not sufficiently supported by evidence. We let our emotions guide us for the majority of our lives. At one extreme of the spectrum is indifference, where only observation and action supported by facts are considered valid, whereas emotion is essentially like an innate compass that all people possess. Since humans are instinctive beings, they are also emotional beings. Giving in to emotion is similar to following one's instincts. We automatically commit to a course of action we believe to be correct without having any means of confirming it. Superstition ruled the past. This changed as a result of countless generations of instinctual evidence. Since the ends justify the means, we interpret success when we follow our instincts as proof that the action was appropriate. When bodies and groups of people ratify such instinctive behavior, a system is gradually formed and swiftly accepted as the standard. It is considered abnormal and, by definition, strange and unknown when something deviates from the norm. The ultimate outcome of superstition, as demonstrated by human history, is an irrational hatred for people who do not conform or are not seen as conforming. To put it briefly, people who are perceived as different face discrimination. Whatever the motivations behind superstition, it is evident that anyone who is fundamentally different would despise any object of superstition, even in a society where superstition appears to be supported by first-hand experience. There are two types of people in the ninja community: those who have a chakra affinity and those who don't. Because ninja skills are innate in all people and are the ultimate social science of having flaws that others do not exhibit, those who lack them will despise those who demonstrate them. From his blue eyes and blonde hair to his peculiar whisker, like markings, Naruto was the very definition of different in his village. However, he stands out in a village full of other unique ninja not because of his appearance but rather because of the destructive power he is thought to possess, a power that far outweighs the combined strength of all the village's tenants. Only a specific kind of people would dare associate with someone like Naruto in this discriminatory world. Either they know him well and are aware of his most personal secrets, or they find him fascinating to varying degrees and are prepared to take the chance of associating with the perceived stigma in order to satiate their curiosity. Anyone who even piques Naruto's interest will leave a lasting impression on the socially isolated and lonely youngster. Hinata Hyuga was the only other person who Naruto believed had spoken to him, even if it had only been briefly, and without displaying any prejudice. When he first met Hinata, he tried to put some distance between them because he couldn't handle the situation. However, she had remained in Naruto's mind ever since she confessed to having been observing him, and he was unwilling to let go of it. He saw Hinata again, alone and in the dark, but this time she was unconscious and at the mercy of her captors. This caused a panic he had never felt before. For whatever reason, he knew instinctively that he had to attempt to save Hinata from that pathetic state, no matter what that meant for his own safety. What was the purpose of life, then, if he did not cling to the hope of recognition? After 2 hours, Naruto fell to the ground, shivering and panting from exhaustion. He had hurled all of his chakra into his muscles and headed toward his captors without considering anything else. He was currently completely lost, and there was not a single indication that anyone had gone through the area. It was the farthest he had ever left the village, and he was on the verge of passing out from the combined physical strain of training and following clearly skilled shinobi. He blacked out as soon as he realized he had no idea where he was and that he had committed to a pointless course of action. The screams of the maimed and dying, and the characteristic clash of swords, could be heard far away. The following day, Honored Council, news of the infiltration and kidnapping of the current and future Hyuga heiress Hanabi Hyuga has been reported. This is definitely a blatant show of aggression by possible enemies, of which this member suspects one or more of the hidden villages be in collaboration in this issue. This is in no part the fault of the Uchiha Police Corps, seeing as adequate clan security should have been enforced in the Hyuga compound at all times. Thus, this member places the onus for allowing this infiltration to succeed on honored member of the council Hiashi Hyuga. He has shown himself inadequate and inefficient in security matters, even with the legendary Byakugan at his disposal, pertaining to his own clan, and so this member proposes the clan head immediately resign and appoint another more deserving of the title of clan head. Fugaku Uchiha grinned. To this end, this member would gladly supply suggestions of possible candidates. Soon after the Hyuga heiress's disappearance, the council was summoned to an emergency meeting, which was causing a stir in clan politics. Most of the other council members denounced Hiashi's failure to stop this kidnapping, and support was shifting in favor of Fugaku Uchiha and Danzo Himura. The third Hokage served as the primary mediator during the emergency meeting, which included representatives from the most prominent clans in Konoha, including the Nara, Akamichi, Yamanaka, Uchiha, Hyuga, and Sarutobi clans. Indeed, this is a most pressing issue. Playing the blame game will solve nothing, and as third Hokage I stand for the immediate investigation of the issue. Punitive actions will be taken for negligence, and steps will be taken to ensure the social and internal security of Konoha after we have determined the main perpetrators of the act. Until then, with the power and authority vested in my position as Hokage, I hereby postpone this meeting for 7 days. Until then, regardless of whether the heiress is retrieved or otherwise, Hiashi will remain as clan head. Sarutobi said. As the council room began to empty, he sat back and frowned. Hiashi was the last to depart, and he glanced at the elderly Hokage, who was still wearing a composed expression. The adversaries of Konoha appeared to be acting quickly. News of the incident had already leaked throughout the village and beyond, causing the villagers to lose confidence in the Konoha Ninja Corps' ability to protect them. It is necessary to take action to stop the instability from getting worse. As I had feared, dissension is now the primary focus of council decisions, and unity is already eroding. Sarutobi, irritated, headed back to his office. Konohagakure's survival would depend on the upcoming weeks. Naruto would have to practice his ninjutsu by himself, without his supervision. When Naruto opened his eyes, he was met by the gentle scraping of metal and a damp, rotting stench. It was chilly in the morning, and a soft, gentle light filtered through the canopy, creating an otherworldly, ethereal atmosphere. It's impossible that I slept for more than 6 hours. Naruto rubbed his sore muscles and sat up, groaning, only to be startled by a voice from a stranger. So, you are awake. It is strange to find a child as young as you wandering around these parts. Might I inquire as to where your destination lies? Whoa! Who the hell are you? Naruto exclaimed, turning to face the source of the voice. He was rendered speechless by what met his eyes. There were mutilated bodies and limbs scattered in a hideous way, and the whole place was covered in blood. It appeared as if there had been a massacre. A man wearing a white hakama stood in the middle of the carnage. His face was completely untarnished by red. His face was crisscrossed with scars, giving him a frightful and terrifying appearance. He carried a single, shining katana at his side, which he was carefully honing. What the hell happened here? Naruto stammered, attempting to contain his retching at the scene of horror. The scarred man said, his face a mask of stoicism and indifference, "These ninja ambushed me last night. That is all. I would have been done sooner, if not for the fact that so many of them were sent to kill me. Now as I have answered your question, so I beg you to answer mine." When Naruto said, I am trying to rescue a girl. Some ninja took her away last night, but I lost Tama. His tone betrayed his apprehension. Don't be daft, boy. A mere child like you against trained ninja? Still, I sense no attempt at deceit. I am Yagayu Munyoshi, a samurai. Perhaps I can be of help to save your female acquaintance. From which village do you hail? The samurai asked. I'm from Konoha, the blonde replied, still not entirely sure of the situation. The samurai's katana, however, touched his neck with a sudden flurry of movement, drawing a drop of blood that attested to the blade's sharpness. The hidden ninja village. You will come with me to see the Shogun, or I will cut off your limbs and take you to him. The samurai said. Naruto's heart started racing in shock at Munyoshi's abrupt change of heart, and his face showed fear. But Yasuhida, please. We have to save Hinata first. I can't die yet. Naruto begged. I did offer my help, did I? Well, I am a samurai. We would defend honor to the end. Now tell me about these ninja, and I will assist you in finding them, the samurai said, sighing and putting his sword away, much to his surprise. Pointing to the headbands that adorned the fallen ninja's head, Naruto said, they were ninja and Ayuha. They had a different hite. A tail like those there. Kumogakure ninja, interesting. Let us leave, time is of the essence. Back in Konoha, the Hyuga were renowned for their legendary dujutsu, diplomatic skills, and unwaveringly composed and stoic demeanor. Even prior to the Hokage founding the village, the clan was well known, and any tragedy that happened to them was always accepted. Even as their enemies cried out for their execution at the gates of the ancient Hyuga fortress, the clan never faltered or wavered. Hiashi Hyuga was sitting in his room today, drinking his usual chrysanthemum tea. If one were to watch him, he would never suspect that anything unusual had occurred the day before. He would be mistaken. Hiashi's political standing was in jeopardy due to the scandal caused by the heiress's abduction, and he ran the risk of losing his clan head title. But he wasn't worried about this. He was personally affected by his daughter's abduction. He hoped with all his heart that they would return, even Hinata. Now that he was in danger of losing both of them, he was devastated both spiritually and emotionally. He was on the point of crying, even though he had not cried when his wife died. He sighed, wondering if there would ever be peace in these turbulent times. Hiashi was unable to contain it any longer. A solitary tear trickled down his cheeks, only to be quickly removed. Weakness would not be acceptable. A week later. Damn it, Kali. We were supposed to reach the Kumo border 2 days ago. Jiboro grumbled. As the three ninjas went over their route, the Hyuga heiress and the branch member were gagged and securely bound to the tree. Well, that's what happens when you let Kali navigate. Forget it, let me do the navigating. Damn Kali, you don't even know how to read a map, do you? See, we're here at grid 2942 and we have to move northwest. Hanzo explained to his friends when he explained the proper course of action. While they were distracted, Hanabi was frantically attempting to escape the ropes that were securing her and her sister to the tree. Both had behaved so well for the past week that they had given their captors a false sense of security. They were going to make their getaway now that they had the opportunity. They watched their captors anxiously, hoping they wouldn't notice Hanabi using one of her concealed knives to cut through the ropes. At last, the ropes buckled and gathered at their feet. They had no cost. They moved stealthily away from their unaware kidnappers. They launched themselves into an exhilarating run as soon as they were out of sight. They were racing through the forest. pumping all of their chakra into their legs, when they heard screams of rage coming from behind them. Fear taking over her sense of smell, Hinata stammered, "They found us. We have to get away." Hanabi increased her speed gradually while maintaining a firm expression. Hinata's chakra reserves were significantly lower than Hanabi's at this point, so she was feeling a little worn out. Hinata let out a cry as she tripped, twisted her ankle, and fell to the ground. After a brief pause, Hanabi's stoic exterior broke down, exposing the fear she was harboring deep within. "Get up, sister, they're coming," she yelled as she scurried toward Hinata. Hinata exclaimed, "I can't, my ankles sprained." The two could see their enraged assailants closing in on them. Hanabi could take it no more at that point. Hanabi fled, leaving a terrified and sobbing Hinata at the mercy of their adversaries. "Sister, we part ways here. If they do not kill you, rest assured I will try to rescue you." After a short while, Kenzo Jiboro and his companions emerged from the trees and focused on Hinata. Jiboro commanded, "Damn! The heiress is getting away. Quick, after her. She's too far away right now. Her speed equals ours, and she could very well have allies in the immediate vicinity. We have lost too much time already, no thanks to Kali. At least we have the clan heirs from the other hidden villages. Going after her now might jeopardize the Raikage's plan." Hanzo stepped in. "Let's kill the branch member and get going. We could always try again another day. This mission be damned. We've lost a precious week for nothing." Jiboro sighed. "Kill her, and let's get going." He scowled as he turned to Hinata. "You guys go on first. I'll have some fun with her then dispose of her," Kali replied. His fellow soldiers knew that he was a rapist and a pedophile. Additionally, he belonged to the division of Kumogakure torture and interrogation. It's not a good combination. "I swear, Kali, if we weren't short on manpower right now I would personally execute you. Have your fun, you deviant, but do not take too long. I am not in a good mood right now." Jiboro laughed out loud. And with that, Kali's two friends ran from the scene. With lustful gazes, Kali reached out and tore Hinata's garments away from her as she cowered. "Sorry, girl. A man's gotta do what a man's gotta do." A fog of fear enveloped Hinata. She was unable to think clearly and could only whimper feebly. The frightened girl squirmed away from her kidnapper, desperately hoping that someone or something would come to her rescue. Kali whispered, "Don't make this difficult for me. I promise I'll be quick." With Hinata's body exposed to the world, Kali was unable to handle the mounting pressure inside of him any longer. The ninja leapt onto Hinata, his ebony eyes wide with lust, only to be struck in the head by the thrashing girl. "Damn it. I'll make you wish you never did that. I'm going to make you beg for me to take you," Kali yelled in rage. Taking the rope slung over his shoulder, he snatched the naked Hinata by her flowing indigo hair and slammed her to a nearby tree, where he bound her. "I'm going to flog you until you recognize me as your master." Kali pulled out a cunning looking cat o' nine tails and then viciously beat Hinata. "I'm not a master at interrogation for nothing. Wait till we get to the cutting-o, won't it be fun?" Kali's smile revealed rows of sharpened teeth. "Maybe I'll torture you to death first, then fuck and consume you," Kali said. Hinata thought her tiny heart would burst from the force of its beating. She had never been this close to death in her life. Maybe sanity is reserved for the weak. The previous evening, perched atop the tree, Naruto looked up at the night sky filled with stars. He had been following Yagayu Munyoshi, the samurai, through the forest for the past week, tenaciously following the ninja's trail after Hinata's kidnapping. Even though their search had been unsuccessful thus far, the blonde never once considered giving up. He was determined to see this through to the end. Naruto was initially frightened by the samurai's appearance. He always spoke in brief, clear sentences and never showed any signs of emotion. However, Naruto eventually grew accustomed to him, and occasionally the samurai even entertained him with stories. The samurai, who were constantly watching, observing, and knowing, became a source of wisdom for Naruto. He had repeatedly saved Naruto's life when the youngster attempted to consume certain toxic plants or even stepped on venomous snakes without realizing it. He had never felt more at peace in his life than he did tonight. Strangely, he felt Safia. Most importantly, he felt Freya despite being at the mercy of a killing machine. A voice that Naruto knew to be Munyoshi's called out, "I see you are having trouble sleeping." Naruto turned, not surprised to see the samurai sitting next to him. He never spoke, and the blonde could never tell he was approaching. Naruto whispered, "Not really, I'm just thinking. I must say, for a child you always seem troubled. Your demeanor is grim, not at all like that of a carefree and innocent youth," Munyoshi replied. "One can only be carefree and innocent if they do not know the world. The truth of life is an ugly thing. But someday, I still hope that I can find true happiness. Samurai. Sana, do you hate ninja? You kill them, so you must hate them, right? Asked Naruto. The only thing Munyoshi could do was sigh and grip his sword more tightly. Prejudice and hatred are ingrained into this world. The ninja you look up to, the Hokage, leader of your hidden village, is a man born of deceit. Like all of their ilk, they bring terror and fear wherever they tread. As samurai that stand for honor and loyalty, the ninja are our mine sworn enemies. But you ask me if I hate them. Though some may answer in the affirmative, I for one have nothing but respect for their character, though I may find their actions contemptible. Naruto nodded in response to his response while keeping his gaze fixed on the sky. Tonight, you seem more troubled than usual. I want to sing you a song, something a close friend composed for me. For some reason, every time I see you, it reminds me of it. There was a brief silence between the two, broken only by the constant chirping of the cicadas. The samurai then began to sing eerie lyrics. Under the moon's illumination, oblivion, tinged vicious cycle of lies. When the faint light turns red, hatred is thus created. Nevertheless, idealism endures. With the help of a small cub. Even though he might die, he flinches, still, unflinching. Whoever has witnessed the truth, despite being directed and forced. He is rebellious as a child, since he is aware of the Reaper's descent time. Determined to rend the sands of his hourglass, the world would be altered. And tame the primal cycle. The following day, the samurai gestured to Naruto and instantly accelerated their pace. I can smell the grit of the earth and the freshness of the soil up ahead and something morea. The hell is that supposed to mean? A furious Naruto screamed. The samurai silenced the complaining blonde, saying, they are close, so you would do well to shut up. But the samurai was lost in contemplation. There were 3 ninja, according to Naruto, but one of them had an odd chakra. Despite being ominous, it appears to be fairly well concealed. I would not have noticed this if I weren't a chakra sensor. It almost seems like a demonic power is touching the ninja. I only hope that things don't get out of hand. I fear what might occur if we defy such a power, so maybe it would be best if we could take dear Hinata and flee. The samurai started to notice something was wrong as they approached the Kumo ninja. Naruto, there's one more person up ahead. The chakra pool seems to be fairly large, and he or she seems to be fleeing the scene. Furthermore, 2 of the ninja are running away too. I do not know whether the person running away is Hinata, or the other girl kidnapped by the Kumo ninja you mentioned. The other chakra pool is currently in close proximity to one of the ninja. He avoided mentioning that the other individual was subject to the demonic influence. Characteristically, Naruto exclaimed, let's go. The one fleeing is safe for the time being. We'll save the other one first. Munyoshi let out a sigh. Stop. It would not do to be brash in this situation. Come, follow my lead. Hey, what's the deal? I saw you massacre ninja like they were nothing. Why so afraid of a single one? Naruto asked. The samurai said nothing, which infuriated him. The two made their way through the forest as fast and silently as they could. Even though Naruto had a lot of chakra, the speed at which the samurai were moving still taxed him. The samurai didn't signal Naruto to stop for another 30 minutes. The samurai warned, they are just behind the clearing. Do not betray our presence. At that moment, the blonde was startled by an ear-piercing shriek that was unmistakably female and reverberated through the forest. Naruto stumbled the words, W. What are they doing? With a grim mask once more covering his face, the samurai did not dare respond. The samurai hurried past the clearing and said, stay here and wait for me. You possess valuable information, so I cannot afford to get you killed. Like hell I will. Hinata was broken in every way possible. She had no idea how long she had been sitting there, bound to the tree and bare naked to the world. Blood trickled down broken skin at each whiplash, as broken as she was. She could no longer feel the hardness of the boot or the raking of the whip. All she could do was lie there and whimper, moan, and scream as the demon that was holding her life in its hands cackled maniacally. Like she did in life, she managed to maintain some semblance of hope despite everything. Perhaps her greatest strength was her hope, despite the difficulties of life and her hatred of those dejected expressions. She blocked out the pain and the fear for the moment, focusing instead on the sun's brilliance and the joy that life occasionally offered. Similar to Naruto-kun. She was not yet broken, so no, the blonde she had been admiring for the past few months, the one who had captured her heart despite her shyness, was the source of her strength. Not giving in yet I haven't had much fun since I last preyed on those hard headed samurai, with all their codes and ethics and honor. Still, your essence is so much more delectable. Haha. You can't blame me. Nothing beats a pure innocent female. The demon or man she referred to as Kali laughed. Aha, I had hoped to draw it out, but time is of the essence. I must get back to the others before they suspect me, you understand, don't you? The man suddenly let out a furious shriek. As she fainted instantly after, Hinata lacked the strength to see what had provoked his anger. Upon entering the clearing, Yagayu Munyoshi was confronted by a horrifying scene. The poor, nude girl he had tied to the tree was being tortured by the ninja, who probably had worse things in store for her. The samurai pulled out his shining katana and slashed it down on the man. Every day, ninjas show me just how deeply they have succumbed to the darkness. I thought I knew them, that despite everything, they did only what they had to, that they had loyalty to the comrades. Now you must die. With madness evident in his black pupils, the man suddenly charged at the samurai, saying, "Is that what you think I am? A ninja? You, my samurai friend, are as much a fool as they are. You disturb my tender ministrations, and that is punishable by death." He appeared to be both irate and joyful, if that was possible, as if he both enjoyed the rush of combat and detested the compromise of his care. The man's apparent lack of self-preservation surprised the samurai. He appeared to charge directly into the katana, disregarding any potential injuries. The samurai roared and swung his katana, determined to split the madman's skull in two. "I will show you the true meaning of fear," he said. The samurai were shocked by what transpired next. The sword struck the man's skull with a dull thunk, but he was unharmed. It seemed as if his skull was impenetrable. The samurai was exposed to attack when the charging man merely grinned and tore the katana from his grasp. "Oh no you don't, Kaden. Gukakyo no Jutsu." Naruto appeared out of nowhere, flashing through hand seals so quickly that they seemed to be a blur. The man and everything else in the immediate area were destroyed by the enormous fireball he spat out. As composed as ever, the samurai remarked, "You disobeyed me. Still, impressive for a child." The man seemed indifferent to the fireball, even enjoying the dancing flames around him. "Hoo-ha, as if such a puny jutsu has even a chance to defeat one such as me. Let me show you my true form," he said. With a shout, he was encircled by a burst of light, only to reappear as a woman with fiery red hair and otherworldly beauty. "Remember my face, for it is the last thing you shall ever see." As I thought. A demon. A kitsune no less. "Come Naruto, we have only one chance to escape. Get Hinata, whom you have fought so hard to retrieve, and come back to my side," the samurai said to Naruto. "It is a high-ranking demon based on the strength of its chakra. We would be helpless against it." Naruto followed instructions without saying a word and snatched the unconscious, nude girl into his arms. "Mighty Kitsune, I'm not sure what has motivated your species to so openly prey on people. Is it the rules your father Fox established for your race?" "What?" the samurai asked. "The Kyuubi? I don't know his fate, however, we haven't heard from him in 8 years, so I am aware that he is dead. We are free to pillage the human world now that he is dead. I'll be adding your souls to my collection next." The fox demon screamed and lunged toward the samurai. The samurai skillfully sidestepped and executed his bluff, saying, "You are a stupid demon, taking on more than you can handle. Father Snake, be aware that I work for Manda as a contractor. I have no doubt that he would love to eat you." The demon flinched at this. "Manda? Not him," however, the samurai yelled, "Kachiyose no Jutsu," and flashed through a variety of seals. The samurai vanished with a poof, taking the girl and blonde with him. The fox's terrified face turned into one of unrestrained fury. "A shunshin, the idiot had outwitted me," the demon, unable to hide, growled in rage. "This samurai will always be in my memory. I'm not very proficient in ninjutsu, and that was the first time I tried teleporting others with my shunshin," the samurai said, sinking to his knees in exhaustion as Munyoshi and his friends appeared some distance away. "At least we survived, which is quite an accomplishment, if I may say so." Now that they were safe, Naruto saw the different injuries Hinata had received. In spite of everything, the blonde blushed when he saw her exposed breasts. He removed his orange jumpsuit and dressed Hinata. "I hope you'll keep your end of the agreement now that I've helped you. Don't fight back, and I'll make sure you and Hinata are safe," the samurai said. "But we need to get her help because she's hurt," Naruto let out a furious cry. "It's just 2 days to the Shogun's stronghold. Come with me now, and she will receive the necessary medical care, as I estimate it would take you much longer to get home." Naruto moaned and gave in. The blonde lifted Hinata onto his shoulders and headed west. That the demon we fought was as high ranking as it was as evidence of their restlessness, the samurai thought, looking backwards. Now even the fox demons are coming out in the open. Such a thing is unheard of. The kitsune never reveal themselves. A storm is building on the horizon. The path was illuminated by the eerie light of the moon, which hung high in the sky. The cobblestone road leading to the Shogun's fortress was 10 feet wide and teeming with activity. The cries of angry farmers and the sound of horses' hoofs stomping on the pavement filled the air as the cicadas' chirping filled the forest. A never-ending stream of carts, carriages, and horses led up to the fortress's gates. Samurai maintained order along the road, and many of them had scars on their bare faces and forearms. It was difficult to imagine what they would do to lawbreakers based on their ominous faces. The Shogun's fortress was a magnificent structure in and of itself. Whitewashed battlements towered high into the sky, a marvel of contemporary innovation and architecture, and it stood as the ultimate bastion of the samurai. The battlements were guarded by samurai warriors too numerous to count, their hands resting on the sheaths of their katanas, and giant crossbows so big they had to be pulled along on wheels were drawn and armed. A flame that pierced the night and shone like a beacon and a guide for any unfortunate person lost in the darkness was burning at the top of the building. It was so bright that it appeared to be the sun. Let's just say that Naruto felt very uneasy. Though Hinata hadn't woken up since her ordeal the previous day, he was certain she would be as well. He had lived nearly all of his life inside Konoha's borders, though occasionally he ventured far into the villages surrounding forest. He had never before encountered the stench of animal dung and human perspiration, the press of humanity, and it was unpleasant. Yagayu Munyoshi, a samurai swordsman, walked beside him, seemingly unconcerned by anything, but he was never upset by anything. Holding a torch high, he dodged the glares he received while navigating through the crowd, sometimes pushing through. "I am taking you to meet the Shogun. You would do well not to anger him. Simply answer his questions and you and your friend will come to no harm," the samurai said simply. The blonde said in his distinctively loud voice, attracting attention from onlookers, "Well, it depends. If he turns out to be an asshole, I would give him a taste of his own medicine. What's so important about this Shogun, anyway? Boy, the Shogun is the rightful leader of Japan, and he is a great man. You would do well to remember that. One wrong move and you could be executed. I'll do it myself if I have to." The samurai were furious with Naruto just kept walking while huffing. Hinata started to move as they got closer to the fortress gates. Her wounds, though numerous, were already healing because of the herbs the samurai collected in the forest, and she had spent the last 24 hours unconscious and slung over Naruto's back. The samurai gestured to the side of the road and said, "It appears that she is waking up. We'll take a short break by the side to give her time to orient herself." Thanks to the numerous lanterns and torches that hung from the fortress's gates, it was considerably brighter here. Naruto placed Hinata on a soft patch of grass out of concern that she might feel uneasy. His heart ached as he looked at her face, which was crisscrossed with cuts. She was a sweet little girl who would undoubtedly grow up to be beautiful. She was unlucky to have to confront that demon. Who knows what might have transpired if he had shown up a bit sooner. He lifted his hand to her face and caressed it, brushing away a few stray hairs. The girl with the indigo hair opened her eyes slowly and looked around, mumbling, "Ooh. Where.ami?" She immediately exclaimed, "Eep," and flushed intensely as her gaze met the boy's blue eyes, which she greatly admired. Ignorant of Hinata's discomfort, the blonde boy babbled, "Hey Hinata. Remember me? You said you were watching me train? Anyway, these 3 guys kidnapped you and then I tried to save you and found one of them, who was actually a demon, torturing." She could still clearly recall the torture she had endured at the hands of Kali. The samurai led the way forward and gave the order, "Quiet boy. Now is not the time. Take the girl and come. Time is of the essence." When Naruto saw Hinata's sudden melancholy, he pushed himself to his feet and slipped his arms beneath her, carrying her in the traditional bridal position. "I'm sorry Hinata-chan. I didn't mean to upset you. My friend here said he'd get you medical attention, so just concentrate on resting," he replied calmly. Despite her blush, Hinata squeaked, "It's okay and Naruto.kun." At the unexpected touch with Naruto. Even her shirt had his scent on it, and she was practically floating in it. Her blouse. She was dressed in the orange jumpsuit that Naruto wore. When she finally saw that Naruto was wearing nothing but muddy shorts and an undershirt, she realized that he had actually seen her nude. Poor Hinata couldn't handle this and quickly passed out, much to Naruto's surprise. "Wah. Hinata-chan, help, I've killed her. For God's sake boy. Do you never shut up?" Back in Konoha there was chaos in the village. The Hokage found himself in a precarious situation as clan head Fugaku Uchiha had already started his fight for control of Konoha. Recently, he had ordered all stealth, focused ninjas from both the Ninja Corps and the Anbu to stay abreast of the Uchiha elders' movements. One of the Anbu had now arrived to meet with the third Hokage, clearly carrying important news. Hokage Sama, the Uchiha have taken hostages from among the Nara and Aburame clans. They most likely will collaborate with them, as long as excessive blood is not shed. Oh no, the Hokage had reached another dead end. Since Fugaku's political maneuvering had solidified his place in the council, he was unable to expose the Uchiha at this time. Almost all of Konoha's esteemed clans had formed strong alliances with him, some by mutual consent and others by deceitful means. The old war. Hawk Danzo had even been bought off to his cause with his promises of power. As the Hokage he and his allies would undoubtedly perish if he exposed the Uchiha clan's lies. We have waited long enough. Get me Sume Inuzuka and Inoichi Yamanaka. We have to come up with a plan. A drastic one if need be. The Hokage stated. In order to eliminate the Uchiha and fortify his position, he would require tools to work with. The Hokage raised his arm to stop the cat. Masked Anbu in the middle of flashing through some seals. One more thing, get me Itachi Uchiha. The Anbu departed in a whirl of leaves, nodding. The village has always come first for Itachi. It's time to put his nearly unwavering loyalty to the test. The fortress of the Shogun, the rectangular hall, had a crisscrossed ceiling with wooden beams and supports, and rows of torches hung on the walls along its length. From the land of fire to the land of snow, all of Japan's ministers were seated at the hall's sides, their heads bowed in submission to the greatest samurai, the country's leader, who sat in a prostrate position at the end of the room. The throne, which was composed entirely of gold, was occupied by the shogun himself. The magnificent mosaics inked onto the stone walls were complemented by intricate carvings of mythical creatures that wound around the throne. The throne room was brightly lit by mirrors set into the ceiling, which reflected the light of the torches tenfold. Munyoshi guided Naruto to this location at the summit of the fortress, directly beneath the blazing bonfire that blazed there. But the blonde was not deterred by the room's grandeur, and he was wondering why the samurai had insisted on bringing him here for the first time. He stiffened at the sight of the shogun, fully armored, his face concealed by a metal mask. The authority he emanated was the only thing that could match his regality, and Naruto knew he would not survive crossing a man like that. He still maintained his air of defiance, though. You have returned, my loyal samurai. What valuable information have you gathered in your month? Long absence from the fortress? Quickly now, the government council is in session, and we hope you bring new insight to resolve the matter at hand. The shogun roared as the two made their way to the throne in a deep baritone. The samurai replied, gesturing for the blonde to bow down in front of the shogun. My shogun, I present to you Uzumaki Naruto of Konohagakure. He will be key to the success of our endeavor. Someone who did not directly earn Naruto's respect was never treated with it. So this geezer is your leader, huh? Well, what do you want with me? Everyone in the room stiffened at this point, including Munyoshi, who in Naruto's experience hardly ever expressed discomfort. The air grew noticeably colder as the seconds went by, and it appeared that the blonde boy had sealed his fate. Ignoring the boy's disdain, the shogun said, Uzumaki Naruto. You hail from Konohagakure, do you not? Despite this, Munyoshi gave Naruto a menacing narrow of the eyes. As loudly and defiantly as ever, the boy said, yes, now what do you want from me? I am interested in your village. Tell me about Konoha and I will guarantee your safety. Naruto raised his voice, daring the shogun, testing him, and challenging him all at once. You will guarantee my safety? I can't tell you how many times your samurai has told me that. Exactly how are you going to guarantee my safety? He asked. The bait was not taken by the man. He spoke to Naruto in the same cool, collected manner as before, his black pupils showing no signs of emotion. I am aware that your female companion is in the process of receiving medical treatment. Know that the onus is not on us to care for her. We can just as readily tie both of you to a log and leave you to the wolves. I believe I am undeserving of the disrespect you have shown me, and I truly am interested in what you know about Konoha, so as payment for our hospitality I would have you sat our hunger for the information we so crave. Still, you have been on the road for a long time, and it must have taken a toll on you. You are dismissed. Should you wish to visit your female friend, just ask a servant to lead you there. Tomorrow, you will come before this council once again, when you are fully rested, and you will tell us what you know. Naruto was forced to leave the room because it was clear that he was speaking with authority. He departed in a whirl of leaves, flashing through hand seals. I apologize, I did not think he would disrespect you in such a way. Do not hold it, Agai, was Munyoshi's first message to his shogun after he left. The samurai apologized, but the shogun waved his hand dismissively. Focusing on his devoted subordinate, the shogun remarked, typical of a child, and from a ninja village no less. Now, Munyoshi, tell me what you know. Naruto laughed conspiratorially, saying, he, those idiots don't really know how a ninja thinks. In reality, he had traveled to a handy wooden beam directly above the shogun's throne using the shunshin. He would be able to hear exactly what the samurai were doing in this manner. He could clearly make out some words from where he stood. Shogun. Sama. It seems the kitsune are getting restless. Some have come out of hiding. Praying openly. Naruto was aware of what the kitsune were. The fox demons were extremely disliked and even hated by the Konoha villagers, who would hunt or even kill any foxes they came across, demon or not. Oddly enough, Naruto shared their distaste for foxes, despite his strong belief that he was human. Frequently he heard the villagers refer to him as a fox demon when they were hurting him, but he had never understood why. He just accepted the taunts without bothering to give them his full attention. Praying openly. Unheard of. We must request assistance from exorcists, he heard the shogun say, shifting in his throne as if uneasy. What about the boy? We need to destroy the Leaf Village. Naruto gasped when he recognized the samurai's voice. He now understood their motivation for inquiring about his village. They desired for it to be destroyed. The boy disappeared with a swift shunshin. Shogun. Sama, the kitsune have become increasingly restless. There have even been rumors of cults murdering innocents as sacrifices to the fox demons. During my journey with the boy, we even came across one of them who revealed its true form, and a high-ranking one no less. It is clear that some of them have come out of hiding, praying openly. The samurai continued. The kitsune have long been known for their deceit. Praying openly? That they reveal their true form outside of their home is unheard of. But I take your word for it. It seems we would require assistance from the exorcists of Mount Myoboku. What about the two children from the Leaf Village? It is clear from Kumo's kidnap attempt that they have already begun to garner bartering chips. Konoha is currently the strongest of the hidden villages, but it seems even the famed Leaf Village must fall to the many enemies arrayed against it. It is unlikely that Kumogakure would act alone. Its allies will surely help in its endeavor to destroy the Leaf Village. Munyoshi continued. There was a muffled gasp, so faint that only the keenest of ears could hear it. Although Munyoshi was well aware of Naruto's presence because of his chakra sensing abilities, the shogun did not appear to hear it. But the samurai were concerned about the blonde's abrupt disappearance. There were too many ways for their words to be misinterpreted. I can handle that later, Munyoshi reflected. Konoha is an ally to the samurai, and we have forged alliances both military and economic. Still, it is a village of ninja, so we can never trust them. If they request for reinforcements, then we have no choice but to honor our agreement. Still, they are a traditional lot, and so are unlikely to break their rule. Never reveal the location of your village. Unscrupulous though they may be, they do hold loyalty in high regard. Our military alliance only states that we are to help them should they request it. If they do not, then it would be time to switch sides and get support from the next strongest village. Kumogakure. To that effect, we have to find the village's location from the boy, by force if necessary, and if possible infiltrate it and use the information gathered to garner Kumo's support. This caused Munyoshi to shift uneasily. He did not like being betrayed. Shogun. Sama, that would be dishonorable of us, to leave our allies to die. The shogun's eyes widened and his voice rose. Do not think to lecture me, samurai. There is nothing dishonorable in surviving. If we do not entrench our position, then the other hidden villages would band together and destroy us. By becoming an ally of Kumo, there automatically opens up a schism between the so-called strongest hidden village and the other ninja villages, and their attention would be focused on defeating Kumo rather than us samurai. By playing the ninja against each other, they would slowly weaken themselves, until finally we can step in and eradicate them from Japan. We might be allies with Konoha now, but always remember the ninja are our sworn enemies. The samurai made an indiscernible frown and bowed his head to the elder man, asking to be dismissed. You are dismissed. Do not forget who owns your life. Naruto hurried as quickly as he could to the medical wing after asking a passing servant for directions. Located in a hidden corner of the fortress, the hospital was a modest wooden building. Naruto hurried inside and ran as quickly as he could to Hinata's room, stopping when he got to her bed. They despise me. Why should I assist them? I was beaten and injured by the villagers. However, I want to take control of Konoha, become Hokage, and bring about a new era of peace. I will never succeed if they destroy the village. Naruto saw Hinata's fragility while he was standing by her side. Knowing that Hinata had relatives in Konoha made him even more determined to keep the village safe. The will of fire must endure, even though those who despise me may never regard me as a human. Because I want Konoha to survive, it must. Even though it isn't perfect, it is my home. Hinata opened her eyes slowly, as though she was aware of his presence. Now that her face was colored again, she appeared to be much healthier. But when she saw him bent over, looking at her with intense interest, she flushed. "Hinata, I'll protect you." Hinata returned, her voice measured and free of her typical stutter. "You saved me. I know you will protect me. I like you better without the stutter, Hinata-chan." Embarrassed, Hinata squeaked, What? OOS, sorry." Naruto grinned and whispered, "There you go again." He sighed and cupped her face with his hand before saying, "Listen, I think these samurai want to destroy Konoha. They are going to make me tell them tomorrow. Before then, we are going to escape." N. Naruto.kun. "I'm scared. Why do they want to destroy our home?" With her lavender eyes fixed on the ground, Naruto said, "I don't know, but I won't let them get your precious people." They remained in that position for a short while before Naruto heard a familiar voice say, "Do not escape. It will make things harder." Naruto whirled around on his feet, arms raised, tensed, prepared to use one technique to destroy the eavesdropper. The samurai remarked, "If you do that, you're more likely to harm Hinata than myself." He wore a white hakama as usual, and his expression was emotionless. "Don't you understand? Even if your home is destroyed, I'll make sure you two are not hurt. Please, don't make me do something I might regret. I admit, life has been hard for me. The loneliness, the hatred, it's more than a person can take. But Konoha is my home, and it is home to the only people I hold precious to myself. I'll never betray my home, I promise. And I'll never go back on my word." Naruto stood firm. The samurai said, moving away from the doorway, "It seems I have no choice. In the short time I have known you, I have experienced your honor, your selflessness, and your will never to give up, despite the obstacles in your path. In respect to our short friendship, I allow you to go. But my duty is to my Shogun, my master. So I will not kill you, not now, but I will have no choice to, when my master sets me upon you." Naruto nodded silently, assisting Hinata out of bed and heading for the door. The samurai's jaw was clenched as they gazed at Naruto. "Naruto, never let hatred take hold of you. You have great promise, yet also great potential to be corrupted. Hatred is like an itch hidden deep under your skin. No matter how hard you scratch, no matter how much you try to cut it away, piece by bloody piece, it will be there, like maggots writhing under your skin. You will spend eternity in hell if you give in." Since he actually learned to walk, he had been running for a considerable amount of time. He was initially driven by fear, both the fear of dying and the fear of being harmed. Now he was running once more, fleeing the samurai stronghold. The weak, sleeping body of Hinata Hyuga, whom he had set out to rescue when he first crossed the boundaries of Konoha, lay in his arms. Naruto Uzumaki was now racing through the forest to return home to Konoha. He ran because he could not bear to lose Hinata, whom he had already worked so hard to save, not because he was afraid for his life. He raised his sapphire eyes to see the first rays of sunlight. Dawn had come, and Naruto yawned, trying to push away his fatigue. He hadn't slept for the day and was suffering from it. He stopped by a tree, propped the girl against the trunk, and sat down next to her after deciding he needed to take a short break. Naruto could hear the rustle of leaves and the chirping of birds in the distance. The blonde was able to sink in the softness of the leaf covered ground. His eyelids drooped slowly and imperceptibly until he was unable to resist sleep for even a moment longer, and at last he gave in to exhaustion. Like the quiet before a storm, this tranquility is short-lived. After being carried all night, she woke up with a sore back. She was feeling much better, though her body was still recovering from the wounds her kidnappers had caused. Hinata sighed. She had fallen asleep the previous evening because she was unable to keep up with Naruto. She was fortunate that Naruto had carried her from that point on and had even instructed her to rest and recuperate. Here she was now, waking up next to the boy while sporting Naruto's orange jumpsuit. She was flushed. It appeared that she would never be able to stop that habit. She also noticed scars running the length of his arms, and she wondered, not for the first time, how he had acquired them. Then she saw that he was sleeping with a frown on his face and a silent snore. For him, I would sacrifice my life. Even though I know I love him, I question whether he will ever accept someone like me, a failure who concedes defeat. He is incredibly resilient and never gives up. She was aware that she was unworthy of him. The cursed seal that now adorned her forehead was a permanent reminder of her weakness, a mark of her failure. Hinata's gaze shifted to Naruto's sleeping form, where his lips were slightly parted and chapped from dehydration. It appeared very welcoming. Who was there to witness the burning in her face? Hinata moistened her lips and edged closer. If I stole a kiss, he wouldn't mind, would he? No one would ever be aware. With her decision made, she gave him a quick kiss on the lips and stepped back, watching for any indication that he had noticed. He remained motionless. She let out a sigh of relief. The sound of metal and swords slipping from their sheaths was then heard by her. That same morning, back in Konoha, Uchiha Fugaku grinned. It was a smug smile, the kind one wears to prove to the world how great he is and how impossible failure is. The outcome is almost certain. The third Hokage was powerless to stop the Uchiha head's rise to power because he had managed to win over most of Konoha's clans. However, the Hyuga clan's quick recovery was unsettling. Rumors had spread that the Hyuga clan had saved their clan heiress, preserving Hiashi's role as clan head. Nevertheless, Hiashi's flawless reputation had been damaged, the damage had been done, and Fugaku knew he would never be able to challenge him again. The plan was already in motion and there was no turning back now. The Uchiha would stage a coup and seize power tonight with the help of its allies. A bloodless coup would have been my preference, but Hiruzen, the obstinate idiot, is not likely to give in. It will be me who brings Konoha together and ushers in a new era where Konohagakure will rule Japan without challenge. And at the head of it would be the Uchiha, Fugaku thought. Now he was heading to the clan meeting room, where all the clan elders and some of his closest associates would convene and make their final arrangements. He was happy to see that every member had shown up when he arrived at the location, a modest, unobtrusive wooden house on the edge of the Uchiha compound. Let us commence the meeting. Toriko, if you would put up some privacy seals. Fugaku gave the order. The elder Toriko nodded his agreement and raised a sound barrier, saying that it would not be good to have their plans exposed so near to completion. Fugaku then went on to say, I'll make this short. The groundwork has already been laid down, and this meeting's purpose is to designate certain problem people we have no choice but to kill. He was satisfied and went on to name several shinobi, including Hiashi Hyuga, Inoichi Yamanaka, and Sume Inazuka, who were the heads of the Hyuga, Yamanaka, and Inazuka clans separately. And finally, Hiruzen Sarutobi. He is perhaps the most stubborn of all, so he must die. My son, Itachi, I would have you assassinate him personally. You are possibly his most trusted subordinate, but I know where your true loyalties lie. Of them all, Sarutobi has the highest chance of destroying our plan, so it is only right I give the honor to you, my son. Itachi Uchiha nodded without showing any emotion, saying, It shall be done, father. At the Hokage residence a few hours later, an Anbu ninja told the Hokage, Hokage. Sama, Itachi-san requests your presence. The Hokage said, send him in, and put up the privacy seals. The Anbu disappeared in a whirl of leaves without a word. Itachi bowed his head respectfully as he entered the Hokage's office slowly. Hokage. Sama, I have news. Well, don't keep me waiting, what are they up to now? It has been decided that the Uchiha takeover will be staged tomorrow at nightfall. They have gathered support from most of the other clans, but a few others have remained loyal to you, Hokage. Sama. Just this morning, my father called a meeting to arrange the assassinations of clan heads and some influential shinobi that have remained allied to you. Among them are heads Sume Inazuka, Hiashi Hyuga and Inoichi Yamanaka, Itachi stated. Hiruzen said, I expect that my death was called for as well? A Hokage. Sama is not among those slated to be assassinated. My father deems you too useless to bother with, but I think Hokage. Sama can use this to your advantage, Itachi responded, surprised. I see. Thank you for your efforts. I entrust you with notifying Inoichi and Sume about the events, and please tell them to meet here tonight. Hiruzen sighed. Itachi bowed, nodded, and walked away. Too pointless to worry about. I'll prove you underestimate me. In a cave outside of Konoha, an hour later a flowing black cloak with red clouds printed on it covered the man. The man himself was a full head taller than Itachi. His teeth were filed into points, and his skin had a bluish tint, making him remarkably sharp. There was what appeared to be a sword strapped to his back, bandaged from hilt to point. The man snarled, I see you have not disappointed, Itachi-san. As he turned to face the shark, like man, Itachi said, I intend to please, Kisame-san. The Akatsuki will play the hidden villages against each other, eliminating them one by one. and Konoha is first. Soon, peace will be in our grasp, but first, war and blood. Then Naruto screamed, "Shit, they found us," while firmly holding Hinata's hand. When Naruto awoke, they discovered that samurai were all around them, their swords out and ready to chop off their heads. They got past them by sheer luck, confusing them with a few strategically placed bunshin. We're fortunate that they haven't encountered many ninjas before. To Naruto's mind, Munyoshi-san was the only one who appeared accustomed to handling ninja. Hinata croaked, Naruto-kun, they're catching up. Naruto responded with a shout, "Just keep running." It was all the more unnerving because the samurai were silent, stalking them without making any noise. The two were soon panting and out of breath after running faster than they had ever done. Just then, Naruto saw one of their assailants standing there, poised and prepared to attack. Naruto had developed some sort of bond with his leafy surroundings after spending a lot of time training deep in the forest and thinking about the principles of nature. The cicadas chirping, the distinctive rustle of leaves, and the lack of any movement at all caught his attention. Ahead, a samurai. He's fast, damn it, but I can tell he's there because it's too quiet and no birds are chirping, no animals are afraid. He must have scared them away first. Naruto yelled, "Hinata, get away," and managed to push the girl away just in time to avoid a downward slash. "Eep!" cried Hinata, scrambling back up and running away from the samurai who were attacking. Up ahead. There's a cliff. Naruto accelerated his pace and pointed. Although he could see Hinata was nearly exhausted, he hoped she would be able to exert herself a little more. The two of them ran to the edge, leaping out of the forest. "We can hide on the cliff face. Just use your chakra to stick to the surface. The samurai don't have all that much experience with chakra, so they might think we jumped," Naruto pleaded. The Hokage had shown him exercises in water walking and tree walking, which he had practiced a great deal. He wasn't very convincing, but right now he was clinging to what little hope he had. Hinata had never really done anything like that before, but since their situation was already dire, she made the decision to disregard caution. It also helped that she had almost perfect chakra control from her foundational training in the Juken stance. The two waited anxiously, lowering and flattening themselves onto the sheer cliff face. There was the sound of footsteps shuffled just above. Hinata and Naruto were afraid to breathe. They jumped? "These ninja are unpredictable, so don't let your guard down," a whispered word. The other samurai gave a salute, saying, "Hi, Taicho." "Yes, Captain." They must have taken the other route. "Move out in search formation," the samurai captain said again after a few seconds had passed. The samurai vanished back into the forest after another round of applause. Naruto released a breath he didn't realize he had been holding with a sigh of relief. He turned to face Hinata and exclaimed, "Ha, we escaped," but then panicked. It was evident that Hinata was experiencing chakra exhaustion because she was hyperventilating. Her small chakra pool was nearly empty after the run, which had pushed her endurance to the limit, and the first time she had used her chakra to stick to a surface. To no avail, Naruto pleaded, "No, Hinata, hang on." She let out one last scream and collapsed. Naruto abruptly stopped his chakra flow, pushing himself off the cliff face and rushing after Hinata without considering his own safety. Then, laughing at the absurdity of the situation, Naruto grabbed her by the waist in midair. "Who will now come to my rescue? I have to use the shunshin to take us straight to the ground. We still can survive this," Naruto thought desperately as he gritted his teeth and held Hinata's body close to him while flashing through some hand seals. "I've never attempted it in midair before." With a poof, right at the ground, their intertwined bodies vanished and then resurfaced. When Naruto reappeared, he was standing on Hinata's legs and holding him when he felt his two limbs give way. Naruto screamed, "Ah ag," as he felt pain radiate through his body. Naruto's left leg bowed at an odd angle as a sickening crack sounded. The blonde lost consciousness as the tendons in his left arm broke and it dropped to his side, seemingly dead. Hinata was unharmed, though she had already passed out from chakra exhaustion. Note: what happened? Well, the shunshin teleports the user from one place to another for a certain amount of chakra, but when the body reappears, all the forces acting on the body prior to the teleport still apply. Because of this, when Naruto returned to the ground, the downward force he was feeling was pushed onto his legs, cracking them, and causing extensive damage to his tendons due to him bearing Hinata's weight on his arms. This is an edit, and Naruto is ignorant of physics. After a little while, Hinata was the first to awaken, hungry and thirsty. At that moment, she noticed Naruto's leg broken and his body lying on the ground, seemingly lifeless. Bone protruded from his mangled skin as his shin snapped in two. She was terrified. The last thing she remembered was plummeting off the cliff because her chakras were exhausted. And oh my god. He attempted to save me. Why did you get hurt? I'm to blame because I'm too weak and wasn't strong enough. She wiped away her tears and sniffed. She hurried to Naruto's side, where she could see his chest gently rising and falling. He's not dead yet. Hinata. Wake up. Naruto-kun needs you. Hinata stood up resolutely and activated her Byakugan after hearing the distant trickle of water flowing. It's my turn to pay him back for all the hard work he put into saving me. First, I need to locate a wooden splint to bind his leg. Hinata made the decision to search the area for food, water, and supplies to care for the blonde, positioning Naruto's body so that the pressure on his broken leg was as minimal as possible. That night back in Konoha, the Hokage said to the two clan heads, Inoichi Yamanaka and Sume Inuzuka, I trust Itachi has brought you up. To date with current events. Itachi was sitting next to the two, who he had brought to the Hokage's office at his request. Inoichi was a tall, wiry man with the Yamanaka clan's trademark blonde hair. Since their signature methods center on penetrating adversaries' minds and extracting important information, the Yamanaka have long been linked to the Anbu torture and interrogation squad. Inoichi himself was praised for being the most skilled in these interrogation methods, and he even proved to be more than capable of easily eliminating adversaries on the battlefield. He was always on the lookout for dissidents within the clan because of recent events, and he personally oversaw the execution of some who even dared to suggest that he supported the Uchiha. He did not allow traitors to live because he was a hard man who was used to the death and violence of the ninja world. Inoichi believed that any subordinate who disagreed with him was a traitor and should be put to death. Sume's eyes narrowed, her hair disheveled, and she had a strong build for a woman. Together with the Aburame, the Inuzuka were the Konoha Ninja Corps' top tracking division. Their keen senses enabled them to locate even the most seasoned ninja, and their fighting ferocity was virtually unrivaled. Sume was an exception to the rule of the stronger, more fierce men in the Inuzuka clan. She appeared more beastly than human during sparring sessions, and she was downright demonic during actual combat. Regardless of the source of her strength, it was clearly the height of Inuzuka achievement, and she had triumphed over all other contenders to assume the mantle of clan head through a ceremonial battle. The Hokage took pride in the fact that these two remained by his side, but the situation was dire, and Konoha's survival depended on taking drastic measures. Tomorrow night, the Uchiha will attempt to take over. Itachi has received word that both of you, as well as Hiashi, are being targeted for assassination. I expect both of you to put together a team of shinobi and ambush the Uchiha assassins. If need be, I will assign some Anbu to strengthen your defenses. I understand drastic action is to be taken, and if the Uchiha clan head as well as clan elders are disposed off, then no matter how much support they have, they will still be unable to usurp your position. Hokage. Sama, I have an idea that just might work. Since the Uchiha are not targeting you, why not send all of the Anbu against the Uchiha? That way, we can assassinate the leader, my father, while they are focused on staging the coup. When their coup fails and the clan elders lay dead, Hokage. Sama must publicly denounce them so that you can solidify your position. I agree, said the blonde-haired Inoichi. Although it may be unsavory, it is the only way to maintain your position as Hokage and, consequently, the safety of Konohagakure. We cannot let Kumogakure hear about civil unrest because they would undoubtedly use the chaos that results to launch some sort of attack. Relations have already soured. We must settle the Uchiha issue right away before beginning to fortify our village's defenses in anticipation of conflict. Sume bared her teeth and declared, it is decided then, we kill the traitors. When Naruto awoke to a world of agony, he silently thanked Hinata for her consoling presence, knowing that without her, he would have undoubtedly gone insane from the pain. She was now at his side, naked because she had to use his orange jumpsuit as a cloth, cleaning his wound and using her chakra after seeing the medical corps ninja cut off the splintered part of the bone, tearing off a bit of fabric, and binding the leg with a tough tree branch for support. For the Hyuga, being forced to learn medical jutsu was like being abandoned, and as she watched Naruto writhing in agony, she wished with all her heart that she had learned some medical jutsu beforehand. You can't just go around naked like that, Hinata. Chan. Naruto pointed to his undershirt and gasped, put on my shirt. At this moment, don't give a damn about such things, Hinata reprimanded. Naruto said angrily, Paina don't hurt. He grabbed another tree branch that Hinata had cut for support and tried to stand up, his left arm still hurting but gradually getting better. We have to get back soon even if I have to walk back on one foot. N.No. Put an end to Naruto.kun. A stutter crept back into Hinata's words as she spoke. "Hinata, we must return and alert the Hokage," Naruto said, hobbling out of the cave on one foot. Unfortunately for him, he promptly tripped on a stone, falling to the ground. "Ah! Oh no. Eat some of the berries I picked." At the very least, for once, Hinata's voice remained steady as she said, "We'll rest for a while, and then we'll go together." "All right, I'm going to bed. In any case, I have no idea where we are." Though she never seemed as intelligent as her younger sister, Hinata had studied basic geography and astrology because she was once the clan heiress. "Don't worry about that. I know which direction we have to go in. Simply go to sleep." Naruto let out a yawn and fell into a groggy sleep, his energy sapped by the agony. Early evening the following day. Once the Senju had forced the Uchiha to accept a lesser position, then the Sarutobi had demonstrated their incapacity and incompetence at running the village. Now, tonight will mark the beginning of Uchiha rule. Toriko Uchiha sat in his room, drinking tea and sighing, hoping to see the Uchiha rise above the others, finally gaining their rightful place as the leaders of Konoha and leading the village to glory. The elder had long since given up fighting, and his skin was wrinkled and white. Unlike others, he was happy to sit on his laurels, and the last time he had ever engaged in a real battle was already 10 years ago. Had he persisted in studying the shinobi arts, he might have been able to see his death coming or even avoid it. Let's just say that the last thing he ever saw before everything went dark was the shine of candlelight bouncing off metal. Fugaku was furious. His carefully thought out plans were falling apart all around him, and he had already heard about the murders of a number of Uchiha elders. He was not the leader of the Uchiha for nothing, and after crushing the throat of his would-be assassin, he made the decision to personally wipe out everyone who still opposed him. The plan was supposed to be secret. If they want bloodshed, we'll give it to them. Now it's up to Itachi. Damn you Hiruzen, this will be the last time you cross me. Several squads of Anbu ninja, armed to the teeth and prepared for battle, were obstructing Fugaku's path as he led a force of Uchiha, the best of the best, marching toward the Hokage residence, where he would rip the Hokage robes from the third and instate himself as the new Hokage. With his comrades remaining silent and in order, an Anbu in a fox mask spoke to the clan head and said, "Fugaku Uchiha, you are being arrested for your treacherous acts. We'll either execute you or you'll arrive quietly." For a brief moment, the two forces stood resolutely facing each other on the deserted street. No civilians could be seen because martial law had been declared just hours earlier. Fugaku then stepped forward, his response unambiguous. The Uchiha and the Anbu engaged in a verbal altercation without exchanging words. The Uchiha began with their trademark, Kaiten, Gukaku no Jutsu, and caused chaos in the small space of the street that had been transformed into a battlefield. Two Anbu were destroyed in the resulting fire, their cries being engulfed by the flames. "Traitors like you, Anbu, are the best. You back the old fool Hiruzen as he gradually obliterates Konoha, but I will not stand for this any longer. You will be put to death for betraying the Uchiha, the supreme authority." With a roar, Fugaku enhanced his arms with chakra and proceeded to tear the heads off his opponents. He then used quick, accurate blows to punch through an Anbu's chest, twisting his arm down and disemboweling him. He then turned and smashed his elbow directly into the face of another charging opponent, splintering his skull and causing his brains to leak out of his ears. 4 Anbu remained, so Fugaku, not wanting to waste any more time, raised his arms and roared, "Kaiten, Goryuka no Jutsu," while flashing through hand seals. Fireballs shaped like dragon heads shot out of his mouth, instantly destroying the Anbu. Fire style, Great Dragon Fire. They are unaware of their opponents. "Come on." When Fugaku yelled, the response was one of laughter. "Fugaku, don't go so quickly. Put an immediate end to this madness." Fugaku's eyes widened in shock that Sume Inuzuka and Inoichi Yamanaka were not only still alive but also in front of him at that precise moment when he heard a rough yet vaguely feminine voice call out, "You as well? Come, then, and perish." With a Kaiten, Zukaku, fire style, intense pain, Fugaku flashed through more hand seals and unleashed a massive wall of fire that engulfed everything in its path. To his dismay, Sume and Inoichi just vanished and reappeared next to him, releasing their fists. The other Uchiha defended their leader by attacking the two clan heads while assuming their clan's taijutsu stance, but they were outclassed and quickly rendered helpless by Sume and Inoichi's combined efforts. "The Uchiha are the strongest for a reason," Fugaku roared yet again, his voice coarse, unwilling to accept defeat. As ferocious as Sume and Inoichi were, he knew it would take more than that to defeat him. Deftly blocking their incoming blows, he managed to get in a few hits while their attention was directed at the other Uchiha. Now die. Kaden. Henka. Fire Style. Flame Flower. Fugaku threw himself into the air and spat out 3 fireballs that fell on the two. The fireballs shattered the ground with a loud explosion, leaving only ashes where Sume Inuzuka and Inoichi Yamanaka had been. You ought not to have confronted me, but only death is in store at URK. Fugaku gulped and gripped his chest, and as he looked down, he saw that one hand had ripped his heart from his chest. I apologized to Fugaku, but I was powerless. Inoichi's serene voice said, "Give my regards to the Shinigami." Fugaku collapsed to the ground, the last thing he saw being the severely burned bodies of the Yamanaka and Inuzuka clan heads. With Itachi Uchiha, who never showed emotion, as his only companion, the Hokage remained in his office. Therefore, they went out and killed the offenders without raising their defenses. The Hokage smoked his pipe and remarked, "Typical." Sadly, Hokage. Sama, that is the case. I have a question for you, Hokage. Sama, if you don't mind, Itachi said. What is it? Are you genuinely in favor of peace? As Hokage, I have witnessed a lot and experienced a lot of conflict. Real peace, as long as there are fighters and warriors, ninja and samurai, and ignorance and hatred persist, I do not anticipate seeing it in my lifetime. I think that, Hokage. Sama. I hope to live in a world free of violence and conflict one day. However, you are correct that there will never be true peace as long as there are people like you. Itachi, sometimes I wonder, what would the world be like without people like me? Itachi stood and walked calmly to the side of the unwary Hokage. Itachi answered without blinking, a better world. Itachi drew his kunai and stabbed the Hokage's skull faster than the eye could follow. I've got to endure for peace. That morning, just before sunrise, Naruto had awakened to a world of agony, his broken leg still useless. Exhaustion caused his body to burn, and every time he moved, a sharp pain shot through him. Notwithstanding Hinata's objections, Naruto persisted in moving westward toward Konoha, strengthening his leg with chakra and maintaining his normal speed, if not increasing it. He was worried about the safety of the village, and many people's needs are greater than one person's. When they finally arrived at Konoha's gates after nearly 20 hours of non-stop travel, the subtle smell of blood hit their nostrils. Hinata was too exhausted to notice and fainted at the village entrance. Naruto also had the feeling that he was close to death and that his leg was going to fall off. After supporting Hinata against a wall, he saw plumes of smoke rising into the sky and, with adrenaline pumping through his veins, he sped off on one leg toward the Hokage residence. He saw scenes of carnage that shocked him to his very core as he made his way through the well-known streets of Konoha. Sometimes he saw dead bodies, some ripped limb from limb, some disemboweled, some decapitated. All of a sudden, he was terrified. After deciding that the rooftops would be the quickest route to the Hokage's residence, Naruto sped ahead until he arrived at the well-known structure. At that moment, he witnessed the boy with the dark hair drawing his kunai. Midnight Itachi drew his kunai and stabbed the Hokage's skull faster than the eye could follow. Itachi's eyes widened in shock as the kunai struck flesh and bone, slicing through meat like a hot knife through butter. The orange blur who rushed through the window, knocking the Hokage to the side and bearing the brunt of the attack, was even faster than he had been. As the blonde-haired boy choked on his blood and gasped, sapphire eyes locked with his. Naruto's face twisted in agony as he choked out, "Notagana let you kill him." The boy had fallen into a boneless heap after the kunai tore through his thigh. Unfazed by the boy's rage, Itachi said coolly, "Aha, the Jinchūriki." With a pale face from the betrayal, the Hokage exclaimed, Itachi, what are you doing? I trusted you. I trusted you too once. But my loyalties have shifted, for the greater good of this world. Kisame, kill him, Itachi said. A blue-skinned man emerged as the ceiling collapsed downward, showering the ninja with debris. Kisame growled, "Watch it, Itachi, I don't like your tone." He reached back and took his sword. "This was your job, not that I'm complaining." Samahata thirsts for blood. The boy is Konoha's Jinchūriki. He contains the nine-tailed Kyuubi, and is likely to unleash its power if aggravated, Itachi clarified. Naruto was not unaware of this information, but he was too preoccupied with his suffering to give it much thought. "Traitor!" Hiruzen yelled, "You underestimate me. Doden. Iwa Kyojin, Earth Release, Stone Golem." Hiruzen wasted little time in interacting with Itachi, spitting out a tiny piece of rock. The rock got bigger until the floor beneath it cracked from its weight. The rock transformed into a stone golem, which swung at Kisame and sent him hurtling out of the Hokage's residence. The golem then silently bounded out of the building to follow the man. Filled with fury, Hiruzen roared, "It's just you and me now. Kachiyose no Jutsu." Summoning technique, he muttered, biting his thumb, and slammed his palm into the floor. With a poof, a huge animal that resembled an ape materialized. "Enma, fight beside me once again." Detachably, the creature said, "The Monkey King Enma heeds your call." Then, it quickly changed into a staff, which Hiruzen seized and swung at Itachi right away. Itachi ducked under the swing and dodged the blow, releasing multiple kunai at the same time. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. Fire release. Grand Fireball. Itachi muttered, trying to divert the Hokage's attention by vomiting out a massive fireball and flashing through hand seals. "I have to get him outside," Hiruzen thought as he launched himself away with his staff. He could hurt Naruto with his jutsu. Hiruzen stabbed Itachi's exposed midsection with his long staff after feinting with a left blow and slamming him out the window. He vanished in a whirlpool of leaves, then resurfaced in midair, slicing his staff down on Itachi and catching him in the stomach. The staff struck, sending the Uchiha prodigy crashing into the earth and splintering the pavement. Itachi stood up as though unperturbed, saying stoically, "It would take more than that to stop me, Hokage. Sama. Your death is inevitable." Sharingan. His black eyes changed, their pupils twirling, becoming like a three-fold tomo. In order to prevent the Uchiha from attacking, Hiruzen spun around and struck Itachi's side with his staff. Hiruzen growled, adding an insult for tact. "The Sharingan can't help you. You may be able to see my attacks, may be able to block it, but you won't be able to weather it, whelp." A sickening crack sounded as though in agreement with his statement. Itachi tried to block the blow by raising his left forearm, but the force was so great that it split his bone in two. Itachi clenched his jaw and executed his subsequent series of hand seals with one hand. "Hosenka no Jutsu," Kaden said, "Phoenix Flower Jutsu, Fire Style." The Hokage skillfully ducked the tiny fireballs by leaping into the air as they raced toward him. "You expect to take on somebody far superior to you in terms of abilities and experience? Death will be your price for your foolishness?" Hiruzen snarled and sped toward the apparently defenseless Uchiha, so focused on completing the battle that he was blind to a blur of movement to his right. With a yell, the Hokage backed away a little but refused to fall as a huge, scaled sword appeared and crashed down on him, tearing his arm from his body. "You believe that Samahada and I could be held there? A fool." Kisame let out a throaty, malevolent laugh, the kind of predator lets out when it knows its victim has no chance of escaping. "Iya won't die so easily." The Hokage was faint from the blood loss and gasped weakly. Just as the two shinobi turned to confront the weakened Hokage, a voice from above said, "No, Hokage. Jija, you're not going to die." "Yeah, I can't pass away right now, not with Naruto still in danger. I'll bring you along." The Hokage gasped. Looking up, he caught the sapphire blue eyes of Naruto and smiled softly. "Naruto. For me, live a good life." The Hokage sped toward the two shinobi with his last breath, tearing his shirt off with his free hand. His wrinkled skin was covered in glyphs and seals, exposing his chest. "Fuinjutsu. Edo Fumetsu." He screamed and opened the gate to the realm of the dead, using the ruined seal of the netherworld as the sealing technique. Itachi and Kisame were desperately trying to flee, knowing full well that once they were touched, there would be no way out, but pale hands, too long and discolored to be human, sprang out from the gate and raced toward the three shinobi. When the hands seized his body and filled him with the coldness of the emptiness, Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't even blink. From the Hokage's residence, Naruto could only watch helplessly as his only true friend gave his life to protect the blonde. He saw the pale hands reach out and grab the two shinobi who were running away at those who had dared to confront the Hokage and watched as they were dragged, flailing into the emptiness. Then a masked man showed up, casually clasping the two on their shoulders, taking them, and vanishing. Even the Hokage was not strong enough to exact revenge, so Naruto screamed at the sky in a fit of rage. As the dark and hateful beginnings gripped his heart, the child was forced to pass out once more. "I aspire to be powerful, stronger than the Hokage, powerful enough to exact revenge. Get this child medical help right away. Too much blood has been lost by him." "It's him, the devil. We're saving him, but why?" "You damned fool, shut up. The boy is Konoha's Jinchūriki, and if he gets upset, he's likely to unleash the power of the nine-tailed Kyuubi." Naruto understood why he was hated, but he did not know what he had done to earn it. The village had lost all significance for him because his only friend, the Hokage, had died. All of that was taken away from him. He was only a young boy who yearned for love and peace. He was a human sacrifice, a Jinchūriki, 1 week later. The room was dusty, the floorboards were blood stained, and the strongest odor was that of disinfectant. The sunlight came in through the windows, a glimmer of light in the otherwise dark room. The door creaked open and a big white-haired man appeared, wearing a Hite.8, but with the symbol for oil written on it, and he was so tall that he dwarfed the room's sole occupant. He was marked with red ink from his eyes vertically to his chin, as though he was crying blood. "Why have you come here?" The slight exertion caused the blond boy to cough and rasp out. The man said nothing, apparently happy to watch the boy talk. "Why do you torture me like this? Like everyone else, you despise me, don't you? Leave now." With his face twisted in anger, Naruto yelled, appearing as though he might kill someone right then and there. To Naruto's perplexity, the white-haired man said, "I had not believed the situation was this bad." "Wrong. Bad. Fuck you." Then, Naruto swore. "Slow down, boy. I'm a former Hokage student named Jiraiya. More than you can ever imagine," the man said solemnly. "I know of you, Naruto. So where were you when he was killed by those jerks? What on earth is the matter with this village?" Naruto became enraged. "When I return, I see devastation and death, and the Hokage of all people was killed in front of me. I am aware of his death. You and I are both impacted. Even though I had severed my connections with the village a long time ago, I am still grieving his passing." Pulling up a stool next to the boy's bed, Jiraiya said softly, "Talk to me, Naruto. Tell me what you see in this village." The council meeting on the same day Jiraiya had had enough. He had never realized the extent of Naruto's suffering over the years. He believed the Yondaime's son deserved better. Now, he was blatantly angry at Naruto's treatment and could take action. However, he was immediately called to the council meeting, so that had to wait for the time being. With a frown on his face and his head held high, he strode into the room, knowing that it would be disastrous if someone irritated him now. "What are you looking for?" Jiraiya spoke in a chilly tone. Everyone on the council, including the animalistic Sume Inuzuka, flinched. "The Hokage is dead," Shikaku Nara, the head of the Nara clan, replied to the Sannin. "There will be severe repercussions if word spreads that we have lost our head ninja. Although war with Kumo is all but certain, we could buy enough time to get our defenses ready if we install a new Hokage as soon as possible. In light of this, Jiraiya-sama, we have chosen to make you Hokage." The white-haired man was surprised in spite of himself. Him, Hokage? He had never thought it would get to this point, not after he had announced his plans to leave Konoha all those years ago, and the only reason he was not labeled a missing nin right away was because he was the third's trusted pupil. "Do you really think I could assume the role of Hokage? What about the other student of Sensei, Tsunade?" "What?" Jiraiya asked. "She also left the village a year after you, so you should be aware of that. We could track her, but we don't currently know where she is. However, after the Uchiha uprising, resources are scarce, so accepting the job would be much simpler," Shikaku clarified. Jiraiya left the room without saying anything more, not even bothering to respond to the council. The other council members were shocked and questioned why the Sannin had behaved in this manner. Roof of Hokage's residence Jiraiya stood motionless, his eyes wandering over the horizon, the question still gnawing at him. Should he accept the council's decision and become Hokage? They hate people they don't understand. They want a weapon, a Jinchūriki, the strongest Jinchūriki, the one who holds the Kyuubi, but they treat him like dirt, not even giving him a chance to prove himself. Do I want to lead such a village? A village doomed to die. Hiruzen, Minato, Kushina. The academy children are pampered. The clan heirs are hailed as prodigies when in the real world they would not last a second. On the horizon, dark clouds are gathering. The end is near. If I refuse, the village will undoubtedly collapse into a violent orgy, and its inhabitants will collapse on one another in utter terror as the hordes of enemies besiege Konohagakure. How has the shinobi way devolved? The fundamental value is perseverance, but all I see is cowardice. The sacrifices made by our ancestors are more important to me than the people who live in the village if I abandon it now. The shuffling of feet behind him startled the Sannin out of his reverie. The hushed voice said, "I thought I would find you here. Kakashi Hatake, it has been a long time. I'll be frank with you, the council sent me on account of my previous connections with you. They want me to convince you to become Hokage," Jiraiya said, turning to see the silver-haired man, who had once been a captain of the Anbu Corps, one of the most feared of Konoha's military divisions, but who now looked lazy. His Hite.8 was worn so that it covered his left eye. Forget about wasting your breath. I've made up my mind. Jiraiya, who was to be released from the hospital that same day, was once again in front of Naruto. The boy had recovered a little from his ordeal, though his blue eyes seemed to be burning with avenging fire all the time. Do you trust me, Naruto? Jiraiya inquired. The boy was momentarily surprised by the unexpected question, but he curtly replied, no. What if I gain your confidence? It depends. Jiraiya stretched his body and got up from the stool. Well, then, don't just stay there, he said. I know you've been feeling cooped up these past few days. You will call me sensei from now on. Make me, Jiraiya. The large, framed man narrowed his eyes and slammed his fist into Naruto's stomach, causing him to double over and cough uncontrollably. Yes, I will. You know that discipline must be maintained. All of this is for your own benefit, so get up and quit moping. I'm going to get you some weights first, and then I'll start you practicing some basic taijutsu, Jiraiya went on. I didn't ask for this. The boy swore, but he was smart enough to keep his mouth shut. He would welcome the strength this man gave him, but that didn't mean he would like it. Gra. When the kitsune roared, it tore out the guts of a yellow toad that was writhing and then twisted around to catch another toad that was charging unprepared. It dodged to the side with a speed that was unheard of by humans and wrapped the amphibian's intestines around its neck, suffocating it to death. The kitsune held on, squeezing the life out of the toad as it thrashed. Oh, how it struggled. Its lips curled upward in what appeared to be a smile, relishing the fear it evoked, the fear of death. Nothing will prevent me from becoming the Kyuubi. My name is Aobozu. The Hyuga were known for being some of the best combat specialists Konoha had to offer, but Hinata was the exception, and that was never accepted. She was treated like dirt, as were all the other members of the branch. It was the natural order of things, and she accepted it. Although a banquet had been thrown to celebrate Hanabi's safe return, Hinata was met with blank stares and barely disguised disgust, but she didn't care what they thought, those insensitive, ignorant elders. She cut herself off from them. They didn't get it. She was devastated when she woke up that night, cold and alone, with the torn orange jumpsuit she had worn as the only reminder that she had ever been with Naruto. She believed that Naruto had left her because she was too weak, and she cursed the fact that she could not even hold on to her consciousness, wishing with all her heart that she would have stayed, even for a brief moment, just to get a promise to see him again. Since then, she had not seen Naruto and had devoted herself to learning and mastering medical jutsu. That opportunity was gone, and she could barely stand it, so she studied and practiced, and the picture of Naruto's agonized face as he lay writhing on the ground inspired her to prove herself to the boy she loved again. She would get better, just so she wouldn't have to endure seeing him suffer while saving her, and being powerless to stop it. Hinata wanted to see Naruto again, if only to make amends, and she wanted to express her feelings to him. The village was reportedly getting ready for war, and the new Hokage, Jiraiya the legendary Sannin, who was regarded as one of the most formidable warriors in history, had already been announced. Martial law had been imposed, and anyone who wasn't specifically ordered to could no longer wander the streets of Konoha after curfew. Children under the age of 16 were also prohibited from leaving their homes without an adult present. She was forced to wait, and that summer afternoon, while strolling through the Hyuga garden, she leaned down to enjoy the delightful aroma of a sunflower, which was so bright that it reminded her of the face she had seen in her mind. After 2 months, Naruto looked down on Leaf Village from his perch atop the Hokage monument. It was morning, and the first rays of sunlight were just breaking through the clouds. The golden rays brightened the village, making it seem calm and serene. He was standing where he always was, atop the Yondaime Hokage's stone head. A new face had been added to the monument, carved into stone with the skill of the best craftsman in the Land of Fire. Jiraiya's face gazed over the village alongside his predecessors. It's not the same without you, Hokage. Gigi, Naruto reflected sorrowfully, recalling all the occasions the Hokage had rushed to his aid, including when he was lying in the cold, when he had been hurt by the villagers' mistreatment, and even right before his death, when he lay hurt on the hard wooden floor of the Hokage's office. Even though he was protected by the current Hokage, Naruto hardly noticed the faint shuffle of feet behind him before becoming alarmed. Could it be that some ninja were approaching him covertly with the intention of hurting him? He turned and saw a young woman with long, wild black hair framing a pretty opal face, blood-red lips set into a hard line on her face, and most striking of all, big crimson eyes that seemed to be able to look into Naruto's soul and see its secrets. She was wearing the Chunin vest that was standard issue, indicating that she was a member of the Konoha Ninja Corps. Child, what has brought you here? Although she could not have been older than 20, the woman's eyes revealed her wisdom, and her voice was both lyrical and silky. Naruto briefly believed that this woman's unearthly beauty was a figment of his imagination, but he soon dismissed the notion because she was so beautiful that not even illusions could match it. Nevertheless, the blonde never forgot the guidelines his sensei established. Only trust people you really know, and stick to your word until the very end, even if it means dying or being betrayed. Who are you? Naruto spoke hesitantly. My name is Kurenai Yuhi, in case you didn't know. What's yours, kid, and why that sad expression? The woman replied. He said simply, I am Naruto Uzumaki. He would not say why he was there, no matter how insignificant it may have seemed. Although Kurenai skillfully concealed it, a tiny flicker of recognition crossed her face. Naruto was aware of this. Then, may I sit here, please? Kurenai joked, I think I need to do some brooding of my own. Take care of yourself. I also don't brood. There isn't much more awkward than this. Two strangers sitting next to each other, neither saying a word, but apparently connected by something intangible. To Naruto's dismay, tears began to fall, tarnishing her flawless features. What's causing your tears? Naruto asked. According to Kurenai, I'm mourning. Who is being mourned? Mateen. Naruto was unable to extract any more from the woman, but he reasoned that it was a fair exchange because he also refused to explain his motivations to her. I must leave. That is, training. You have no guardian who is an adult. You are aware that the law requires you to have one with you at all times, Kurenai said. That is not a concern of mine. I am protected by the Hokage. Strangely unsurprised, the woman just sat there and said, well, I can follow you. It could avoid unnecessary situations along the way. She does appear lonely, so maybe she wants company. Fine, come with me. Later that day, Naruto discovered that the woman was Kurenai, a genjutsu expert, with flawless chakra control, something she had to maintain to execute her techniques, a variety of skills centered on illusion and distraction, and Naruto had gained nothing but admiration for the art from her demonstrations. In Naruto's opinion, the variety and inventiveness with which Kurenai created her illusions made most ninjutsu and taijutsu practitioners blush. Genjutsu was traditionally viewed as a feeble substitute for the simpler taijutsu and ninjutsu. She had the ability to lure enemies into kissing poisonous snakes, send them terrifying nightmares so bad they would kill themselves to escape, and even alter the appearance of an entire area to suit her goals. Although his chakra control was sufficient to perform ninjutsu, Naruto's interest in learning the first techniques of the illusory arts was piqued, and he had asked her to teach him a few minor genjutsu techniques. Naruto performed, not good enough. He pleaded with the woman repeatedly until she gave in, giving him some chakra control exercises and saying that she would teach him if he could only finish them. Knowing Naruto, he would likely train until he passed out. After Hinata and the third Hokage, he made his third friend that day. Only time would tell if the friendship would last. That same evening, so, what caused you to cry? Naruto asked, sitting at his favorite ramen stand with the crimson-eyed woman after a day of futile chakra exercises that required him to stand motionless on water and then control his chakra output to move forward or backward at a steady pace. He had to maintain perfect control at all times. Too much chakra would cause him to blast himself out of the water, and too little would cause him to sink. Everyone on my team is dead, she remarked coldly. My teammates and my sensei perished in the Kumo border incident a few days ago, as well as during the damned Uchiha revolt. He must have been a wonderful man. He was the greatest instructor. And my teammates. Kurenai was crying now, and it was clear from her response that this was a sensitive spot. Naruto felt bad for bringing up the subject, but his curiosity was killing him. She drank a lot of sake that night, so much so that she passed out. Naruto shook his head and left her lying there. I may express my anger, but I will never be weak because I cannot afford to. That is a significant difference. The following day, at the Hokage's residence, Jiraiya had no idea what drove the fools to take such action. 3 days prior, a group of 3 Chunin had been sent to patrol Konoha's border when they spotted 3 full elite assault squads from Kumo trespassing along the border. Rather than waiting for reinforcements, the group decided to take on the Junin assault squads, which inevitably led to the death of 2 of the Chunin before reinforcements arrived, forcing the ninja back across the border. When the surviving Chunin were questioned about their involvement with the enemy, the woman claimed that they were defending the local Konoha peasants, who would have undoubtedly perished and the crops would have been destroyed if they had waited for reinforcements. The ninjas' lives could have been better spent defending Konoha, but we have enough farmland deeper within the Land of Fire, so it was not necessary to save the meager collection of small settlements and poor farmers on the outskirts. As much as I hate to abandon them, it seems to be the only way to conserve resources and weather the hardships ahead. Damn it, we cannot afford to lose ninja like this. We either sacrifice innocent men and women or ninja. The clock is ticking. Suna has severed relations with us. The Shogun has severed relations with us due to our failure to satisfy their economic demands. Kumo is boycotting trade with Konoha, and in addition to the harm done to the Uchiha, we do not have the funds to even fulfill the military and trade agreements with our allies. To make matters worse, the samurai are supporting Kumogakure. Kumo will now probably choose between two options. Either it will attack us directly within the next month, or it will gradually destroy the village before launching a full-scale invasion with its allies in 2 or 3 years. Based on the Raikage's strategy of practically kidnapping the entire generation of clan heirs from Sunagakure and Kirigakure, it is likely planning a joint attack. It's amazing that Kumo was able to capture so many clan heirs, let alone imprison so many of them. The fact that the other villages have not been able to reclaim even one heir is evidence of their strength. However, maintaining such strict security must be extremely taxing on Kumo's military, so they probably wouldn't risk an attack so soon. Instead, they will increase their forces while threatening and otherwise controlling their allies. In order to secure the services of smaller villages like Kusagakure, village hidden in the grass, and possibly Iwagakure, I might need to send a delegation of ambassadors. They are as much enemies of Kyumogakure as we are, so they might be open to a military alliance, even though there is still some resentment from the Third Shinobi War. The sudden disappearance of all summons is perhaps the most unsettling of all. I first lost contact with the toads of Mount Myoboku, and then I heard from Tsunade that the slugs are also not responding to her summons. People have lost the ability to contact their contracted familiars all over the shinobi world, and I'm afraid there might be more going on than meets the eye. My first concern is the village. I have to get ready. Jiraiya let out a sigh as she considered her options when Naruto burst through the window. Fuck it. You brat, what are you doing now? Angry that he had lost his train of thought, Jiraiya roared. What sort of sensei do you have? You gave me a C-ranked wind ninjutsu, which I have long mastered, but you have yet to visit me to see how I'm doing, Naruto complained. Dude, don't give me that lip. My first concern is the village's safety. When I have time, I will come train you. Go find Guy and go for a run or something if you have so much free time. Or go to the library and find some scrolls to train yourself. Jiraiya yelled, raising himself menacingly to his full height. These are the keys to the Hokage's library, Jiraiya said, selecting a ring of keys from a drawer on the Hokage's desk. Find a scroll, please. Don't make me say it again. The back rooms are off limits. I'll punish you severely if I discover that you disregarded my warnings. Naruto hurried out, knowing full well what the man was capable of when he was furious. With his hectic training schedule and little time for sleep, Naruto enjoyed having free reign in the library. Occasionally, Jiraiya would be too busy to teach him, so he would let him look for scrolls. The Hokage's library itself contained every single secret there was to know about the village, including every jutsu and technique used by Konoha ninja in battle. Jiraiya had never let Naruto enter the back rooms, so he was confined to the outer parts of the library, which housed genjutsu and ninjutsu of D-Day rank. The library was not just about jutsu, though. It also contained a wealth of books on taijutsu fighting styles, some ancient, some modern, and the history of Konoha, in all its meticulous detail, though Naruto never bothered to look at it. When he got to the Hokage's library's oak doors, he pulled out the keys to open the enormous book collection, only to discover that it was already open. He was immediately alert. The library was only accessible by Jiraiya, and the doors were guarded by strong seals made by some of Konoha's most famous seal masters. However, the seals appeared to have been broken, the lock picked, and someone had entered. Not wanting to take the chance of setting the candles on fire, Naruto cautiously crept into the library and moved through the bookshelves in silence, listening for any movement. It's too quiet. There's no sound, no movement, not even the presence of a chakra. The blonde sniffed nervously, and there was a slight smell, like a freshly passed unwashed beast, before he stepped on something wet. Naruto could only make out brown slime on the floor when he looked down. This is disgusting. What the devil is going on? The slime trail, oddly enough, led directly into the forbidden rooms at the other end of the library. Shall I call Jiraiya? Sensei? Perhaps I could just peek inside for a moment. The seal was also broken, and Naruto entered the room, which was completely dark after the boy stalked to the large double doors that marked the forbidden rooms. He followed the slime to the desk in the center of the room and lit a small candle by exhaling fire chakra. The trail appears to have ended here. What is this? It appears that someone or something removed this document and slobbered all over it. This is how the document read. Begin details and personal information about the Konoha Ninja Corps. Regarding Jiraiya Sanin, a pupil of 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, has an unidentified clan affiliation. Currently, Konoha Ninja rank is invalid because of excommunication. Private data. Categorized personal relationships. Categorized. Location. Unknown status. Traitor to Konoha due to insubordination and treason. If there is a punishment, it should be applied immediately. S-class security threat. Do not approach alone. Finish the words. Techniques listed within are forbidden practice. Open at your own risk. Were inked on a common leather bound scroll that Naruto decided to investigate further after finding it difficult to understand what he was reading. Jiraiya, a traitor. Why was he even considered for the position of Hokage then? Naruto put the scroll in his pocket after deciding it was interesting. Then he heard something slouching behind him, and as he spun around, he saw the most repulsive thing he had ever seen. The man, if it could be called a man, wore the unmistakable leaf Hite.8. It had 2 stumpy legs, as if someone had severed the thighs of the vaguely human torso and then sewn the legs back from the calf down. Uncountable fingers adorned each hand, the nails lengthened and sharpened, until the arms vaguely resembled warped, biological versions of a morning star. The mouth took up half of the face, with a pale flickering tongue hanging out and dripping brown slime. The eyeballs were rolled back, revealing only the whites of the eyes, and the man-thing stood on 2 stumpy legs. Naruto instantly flashed through his hand seals, fighting the urge to throw up and screaming as loudly as he could. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. A sickening clicking sound came from its mouth, but otherwise it did not fall as the flames poured around the monster, setting it ablaze and causing it to writhe uncontrollably. It moved with uncanny speed toward Naruto, surprising him and singing him with its still, burning skin. Ah! A roar came from the entrance of the forbidden room, and Naruto turned to see an enraged Jiraiya. He was at Naruto's side in a single bound, slamming his fists at the monstrosity and beating blood, pus, and other unknown liquids out of its body. He continued until the creature was a smear of blood on the ground. Jiraiya straightened slowly and calmly before turning to face Naruto and asking, "Are you okay?" I am fine. Have you noticed anything more?" With a strained tone, as if hoping that some sinister secret would remain unspoken, Jiraiya asked. "No, I didn't. I had just arrived when I saw the forbidden rooms were open, so I took a quick look inside. It came at me right away. No, I swear I saw nothing." "Nothing is to leave this room," Jiraiya said, nodding stiffly and clearly not convinced. "Or you pass away, right away." Naruto nodded, his face white with terror. Jiraiya added softly, her face softening, "Go clean up. Tonight, come to my office. I will explain to you." Naruto left the room without saying anything more. Jiraiya returned his focus to the room, where the walls and floor were covered in blood. The beast was once Mizuki, a chunin from the academy, and since he has only been gone for 1 day, Orochimaru must be hiding somewhere in Konoha. He may be skilled at concealing his presence from lesser ninja, but I could recognize his work anywhere. Jiraiya sighed and buried his face in his hands, wondering how he would explain this to Naruto. That evening Naruto walked subduedly into the Hokage's office. "Oh. Naruto." Jiraiya gestured to Naruto to sit down, saying, "Please, take a seat. I assume that you have a lot of questions in your mind. Would you mind describing what you saw in detail before I respond to them?" Even though it was obvious that this was not a question, Naruto remained silent. "Consider it a directive from a higher-ranking officer. What did you see now?" Jiraiya repeated, her voice growing dangerously deep. Naruto responded, gulping, "I'm not sure what I saw, to be honest. I did see your old registration document for the Konoha Ninja Corps, though. Would you mind explaining your traitorous label?" He did not mention that he had obtained the Forbidden Scroll. "I had that thought." To stop the conversation from leaving the office, Jiraiya put up a sound barrier at this point. "Wait a minute, let me put up some privacy seals. I'm going to divulge an S-class secret to you. I'm going to personally decapitate you if you even mention this. Do you know the pupils of the 3rd? The only one I am aware of is you. Well, Tsunade and Orochimaru or the other 2. I still stay in touch with Tsunade, even though Konoha doesn't know where she is right now. But I haven't seen Orochimaru in over 10 years. How does this relate to your traitorous behavior?" "Everything. Finding my teammate Orochimaru and convincing him to return home was the main reason I left Konoha in the first place. I assume you don't know about Orochimaru's previous transgressions?" Jiraiya asked. Naruto assertively stated, I don't know shit about him. He had been playing with children's genes. The third Hokage, my sensei, had discovered Orochimaru dissecting clan children who were harboring Kekkei Genkai in an attempt to somehow integrate those genes into himself. He eventually developed an obsession with becoming unbeatable and, consequently, immortal. At this point, Naruto was completely disoriented. I understand that Orochimaru did something wrong, and old man Sarutobi caught him? It's not just awful. He was playing with forces that no one understood, and as a result, he killed a great number of children, Jiraiya said. For 5 years, children would abruptly leave no trace of their whereabouts. This persisted, and even though the Hokage sent ninja search details and used the Anbu to look into the disappearance cases, the cause was never identified. Even the Anbu who was protecting the kids frequently died. The Hokage eventually had enough and made the decision to look into the situation on his own. He looked for Konoha for weeks without finding anything. That is, until he made the decision to visit Orochimaru's lab. Jiraiya went on. Sensei had asked me to go with him on his investigation that fateful night and had also made the decision to go to Orochimaru for assistance. We discovered him dissecting a struggling and still alive child in the laboratory in Konoha's sewers, the only place he could be. Naruto shuddered at the idea and remarked, I take it he was banished. Even though it would have been preferable to execute him in retrospect, the Hokage banished him. However, the old man chose to call one of his students a missing nin because he couldn't bear to kill him. I couldn't understand what he had done, being the idealistic fool I was at the time, but I pursued him because I wanted to persuade him to change his course. I couldn't leave my friend behind, even though Sarutobi told me to remain in Konoha. So the Hokage labeled you a traitor as well. In a sense. My disobedience was never exposed. Sarutobi hid my papers and made me swear I would never go back because he could not stand the thought of 2 of his best students abandoning Konoha. I can still picture the sorrow in his eyes the day I left the village. I was so stupid when he said, the choice is yours to make. Leave now and never return. Stay and I will make you Hokage. I wish I had the ability to go back in time. Jiraiya remarked, I left, disappointing my sensei and betraying my village because I never wanted to become Hokage. The two sat in awkward silence for a while, neither of them wanting to say anything. After that, Naruto remarked, but you returned, you broke your promise. The blonde winced as Jiraiya's eyes narrowed with bottled up anger and she yelled, I had no choice. I would be making a bigger mistake if I didn't come back and take over as Hokage because so many people gave their lives for this village. You don't get it? If I hadn't become Hokage, Konoha probably would have been destroyed by now. If Konoha is destroyed, then their sacrifices, it would all have been for nothing, Jiraiya said, hunching over in his chair after exhausting his rage. I only wanted my friend back. I had no intention of betraying the village. Did you connect with Orochimaru? Jiraiya said, hesitating slightly, I didn't. I know he's hiding something, Naruto thought. That creature you observed was the creation of Orochimaru. His work and scent are recognizable everywhere. He's in Konoha somewhere, but I swear to you, Naruto, I'll make amends. I will kill him this time, Jiraiya declared in a firm voice. But yet you broke your promise to protect Konoha before. There was nothing Jiraiya could say about this. Just, Naruto, give me a chance. Together, we are capable of destroying him. For the sake of the village, I'm telling you not to tell anyone this secret. The village's foundations would be shaken if it were made public, causing turmoil that would dwarf the Uchiha uprising. To a certain degree, Naruto believed in forgiveness, but he was a man of his word, and he was more shocked than he would like to admit that the Hokage had broken his word. As my sensei, I'll assist you. What are we supposed to do? Orochimaru would definitely be using some sort of genjutsu to mask his presence, Jiraiya said, his mood lightening significantly. We'll have to find someone we can trust because, although I'm pretty good myself, I have other things to prepare. Naruto boastfully remarked, I know just the person. Somewhere in the sewers of Konoha there was no mistaking the stench of snake venom. A man with shoulder-length ebony hair, slitted eyes, and a forked tongue stood in the room, unfazed by the strong odor that filled the air. His voice was full of hate as he rummaged through a shabby book. So, it's accurate. The Kyuubi has passed away, 1 week later. As the academy students filed into the arena, Naruto sat in the shadows, watching. It was just a little clearing directly behind the massive brick academy building. He observed them honing their chakra control while practicing with blades and kunai, trying, failing, and trying again. Above all, he witnessed them becoming friends. They supported one another, encouraged one another, and helped their friends get back up after falling. His mind suddenly turned to the third Hokage without his consent. With that gruff old voice, he could hear him instructing him and conversing with him when no one else would. You get back up after being hurt. You frequently question your own abilities, your motivations for trying, and your capacity for success. You always fail before you succeed, so you might fail then. However, you have your friends, and you get stronger with them. You will make friends someday, Naruto, and you should hold on to them forever. Naruto's blue eyes grew dimmer as he focused more intently on the students he was observing. Jiraiya had assigned him the duty of protecting the academy because he suspected Orochimaru of using it as a source for experimental subjects. Following Naruto's advice, the white-haired man gave Kunai the order to accompany them in eliminating a security threat. Naturally, she was never made aware of the actual nature of the situation. He grinned a little when he noticed the children's smiles. They were all about his age. They were all very animated. It was like family as they fought, bruised one another, and then laughed together. Naruto was astounded that such joy and purity could be found in a world so tainted by evil. While the adults were preparing for battle outside the academy, this place seemed to be a completely different reality. He witnessed a blonde and a pink-haired girl fighting over the affections of a grim-faced, bored boy. A fat child, most likely from the Akamichi clan, stuffing his face with snacks and engaging in animated conversation with a slimmer boy. Then he caught sight of her. Hinata. As usual, the well-known lavender-eyed woman was quiet and reserved. If it was possible, she appeared different, more solemn than before. She did, however, appear to get along well with another student who was just as reserved and had a gray jacket wrapped tightly around him. He was wearing black goggles. The instructor was a good-looking man. His leaf hit a vertical scar that ran from cheek to cheek and was a reminder of past battles, was worn with pride. Although the man was also a chunin, Naruto was most impressed by his firm yet compassionate demeanor. He was a true role model for the kids in his care. Nevertheless, Naruto understood why he was removed from the mission roster and assigned to instruct the academy kids. How could a man possess the ability to kill with such ruthlessness? He saw the girl with the pink hair excuse herself in the distance. To be safe, Naruto decided to follow her. Naruto realized the girl was urinating when he surreptitiously followed her back into the building. Naruto pondered as he waited directly outside the building. I'll just wait here. Although a section of forest divided the main building from the rest of the village, the ninja school was situated in the center of Konoha. In a sense, it was remote. But instead of experiencing the well-known loneliness, Naruto felt calm. He lay on his back on a soft patch of grass and yawned. He saw leaves falling and dancing to the melody of the wind, and branches swaying in the wind. Then he heard a high-pitched scream that seemed to come from everywhere at once. With his heart racing, Naruto rushed in the direction of the academy, determined to find the source of the girl. Without a doubt, he was alone now because all the academy teachers were out there attending to their classes, as usual. He pulled out his kunai and bounded into the academy courtyard, only to encounter yet another hideous monster in person. Horrible appendages hung from the body, which was merely skin and bone, and the creature was short but still hunched over. The entire left half of the monster's face appeared blurry, as if the skin had melted off like wax, but the right half appeared intact and was that of a girl, probably no older than 5. Its small size belied its strength, as it carried the pink-haired girl's unconscious form in its hands with ease. God, oh God! Who is sick enough to harm a young girl like this? Naruto wasted no time in preparing his kunai. Running to the monstrosity's location and slashing at it, he hit the air. The thing used the girl's body like a bat with superhuman strength, slamming her into Naruto and sending him flying. Oh no! I'm afraid of hurting the girl, so I can't use my jutsu. Naruto flashed through his hand seals, disappeared, and then reappeared behind the monster, using its vulnerability to his advantage by driving his knife into its back. He twisted the blade, cutting off the spinal cord, and the body fell to the ground, blubbering ineffectively. Naruto quickly raised his sandaled feet and slammed it into the creature's face, scattering its brains across the courtyard. I've got to notify Jiraiya Sensei, he thought as he picked up the unconscious girl. That was his final thought before he was abruptly knocked out by a blow to the back of his head. In the Konoha sewers, somewhere Naruto retched when he woke up to a foul stench. The sibilant voice said, "Awake now, I see." The word's syllables twisted in a manner that sounded like a snake hissing. After orienting himself, Naruto saw that his 4 limbs were chained to a white table, thereby limiting his range of motion. The room he was in was dim and dreary. There were many glass bottles scattered about, each one containing strange, unearthly objects that seemed to pulse in the shadows. "Who the hell are you? Let me go," he growled. The voice came back with hateful words. "How about, no?" Naruto growled. "You are Orochimaru, I take it? You seem well informed, my child." "Yes, I am Orochimaru." "So what do you want with me? And where are we? What is that infernal stink?" Naruto gasped. "So sorry about that. We are in the sewers, of course, and this is my laboratory. Just sit tight, you'll find out what I want soon enough." Naruto saw a man whose skin was too pale to be entirely healthy. He appeared to have developed fangs. Naruto was reminded of snakes by the man's appearance and the noises he made. He had an old leather-bound book in his hands. Age had browned and dog-eared its pages. The man said, "You were supposed to be Konoha's Jinchūriki." Naruto narrowed his eyes and said nothing. After setting down the book, the man took Naruto's arm. Orochimaru brandished a syringe and pushed the needle into Naruto's vein, extracting some blood. Orochimaru walked to his desk and used a variety of scientific tools to examine the blood he had drawn. "It is as Manda told me. The Kyuubi may be dead, but a remnant of his power remains. It seems a small sliver of demon chakra is in your blood, Uzumaki." Naruto's mind was racing, trying to think of a way out. The blonde feared Orochimaru might turn his madness on him because his words made no sense at all. He was unable to use any ninjutsu because his hands were bound. Then he recalled the lesson of the third. Hand seals are necessary to shape your chakra into something recognizable, but with practice and time, you may be able to execute some of the more basic ninjutsu techniques without their assistance. He trained to become proficient in the first jutsu listed, the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu, after obtaining the Forbidden Scroll from the library. The Kage Bunshin seemed to come almost naturally to him, in contrast to the Academy Bunshin, which he still struggled to perform. He now focused on mentally shaping his chakra, going deep inside himself and attempting to extract his energy, until his focus was disturbed by pain that burned through his body. When he looked up, he saw Orochimaru grinning at him. "Now, my child, don't waste your energy, just stay put." The blonde gasped as the snake-like man slammed his hand into Naruto's stomach. Orochimaru wormed his fingers into Naruto's flesh slowly but steadily. The pain began when the man directed his chakra inward. He was only aware that the pain never stopped, but he had no idea how long he had been forced to bear it. His entire body seemed to be on fire, burning and hurting all the time. His throat was parched and dry, and he had long since stopped screaming. After what felt like an eternity, he finally received a brief break from the excruciating pain. Naruto, barely conscious, heard the familiar groan of wood in the distance, as if someone were opening a door. Orochimaru looked up, stopped his ministrations, and turned. "Kabuto, so nice of you to join us. Have you erased the traces of our presence?" In full black robes, Kabuto replied, "Yes, Orochimaru. Sama. I brought the girl as well. Can't afford to leave witnesses." He was carrying the limp body of the girl with the pink hair. Useless. She's from a civilian family. Put her on operating table number 3. I'll work on her later. A shiver went down Naruto's back. Weakly, he yelled, "No, get your hands off her. You should be honored because, in contrast to her, you have treasures in your body that I would like to extract. After all, you are the first Uzumaki I was able to obtain, so you should be calmed down, my child. It's all for the benefit of humanity, nothing you would understand. What are you doing, and why? Why do you act in such a terrible manner? You were once considered a friend by Jiraiya," Naruto growled. "The idiot. He won't find you, but I've heard you were in his protection. He wouldn't be able to do much even if he did. I still remember those days when we were young. He was always bullied, always shunned for his incompetence," Orochimaru said abruptly, his tone suddenly becoming nostalgic. "I was the one who always spoke to him and consoled him. He still fumbles around in the dark as Hokage, losing sight of the forest in favor of the trees. You hate what you don't understand, young Uzumaki, just like everyone else. Even though I was your Jiraiya, Sama's first friend and his friend, he made no effort to comprehend my intentions." Orochimaru stated, "My experiments seem frightening, don't they? Science is my life, the only rule I adhere to. And you cut them down without hesitation. What if you were certain that they knew everything that was going on with them? You see, I just changed their body in a way that allowed me to manipulate it rather than their own thoughts. However, they are the ones who see everything through their eyes, and they are the ones you murder. Why? First of all, why do you do it to them? You crazy person. You're crazy. Naruto gritted his teeth and growled. Naruto, we are all crazy in one way or another. I just have more selflessness than all of you. The entire world will burn if I don't do what I do. You look confused to me. Let's just say that I need to make sacrifices in order to save the world. He grabbed that old leather-bound book and started writing wildly in it. Look at this. It's everything I've ever learned in my life, including how things operate, why the sun and moon shine, and why objects fall rather than rise. More significantly, it lists all of my engagements with non-human entities. Uzumaki, pay close attention. The Kyuubi has died, and his legions are descending on this planet without warning. Do you not sense it in the atmosphere? There is a catastrophic war on the horizon. I do what I have to do because I need his power to save it. And you kill so carelessly for that? I'm sick of you. I understand. Then I'll demonstrate my sickening nature to you. Bring the girl here, Kabuto. With a mutter of agreement, Kabuto moved the operating table to Orochimaru's side, and the man leaned the table Naruto was placed on so he could see everything that was going on. Observe, Uzumaki. Observe me as I perform my magic. Office of the Hokage. The Chunin Kurenai Yuhi, who had just returned from a fruitless search for any security breaches in the village perimeter and the sewers, sat at Jiraiya's office, waiting in vain for Naruto's report. 6 hours ago, that boy was supposed to return from the academy. Where is he now? The doors suddenly flew open, revealing a flustered Chunin who was clearly very upset about something. What does this signify, Uruka? Jiraiya asked. I don't recall having an appointment with you today. It's urgent. Another pupil has vanished. It's Sakura Haruno. Despite the fact that it is past curfew, her parents reported her missing from home. He babbled unintelligibly. With his eyes wide, Jiraiya stood up and practically flew out of the office, leaving Uruka behind. Come with me, Kurenai. Maybe we can get some hints from Orochimaru's former lab. Mister. I've already looked around for any signs of genjutsu. Following Jiraiya as they ran across the rooftops toward the Konoha sewer entrance, the red-eyed woman said. He's in the sewer somewhere. If we are within 500 meters of each other, I will be able to detect him. It's all we have, but we don't have much else. I could send out the Inuzuka and Aburame trackers to search the area, but that would be too dangerous. Konoha would fall apart if they discovered the real reason I had to leave the village, and I can't let that happen. On one of those days, she woke up with a throbbing headache and a sore back. She had a nightmare in which a monster had snatched her up and was going to devour her when she opened her eyes. She sighed and attempted to get out of bed, only to discover that she was chained to the bed. She wasn't on her bed, though, and the smell of feces hit her, making it difficult for her not to throw up. The first thing she saw was a blond boy in a similar chain, staring at her with wide blue eyes, and when she looked down, she saw a pale man using a scalpel to cut open her legs, his mouth set into a grim line. Her blood was now streaming out, and she watched with morbid fascination. Then she let out a scream. The most horrifying thing he had ever heard was her ear-piercing shriek, and as he looked at her helplessly, he found himself screaming along with her, their voices raised in a distorted hymn that drove Orochimaru insane. No. Quit it. Get rid of Her. With all of his strength, Naruto yelled as he struggled against the restraints. Orochimaru started to speak, but the pink-haired girl's cries overpowered his words. I'll murder you. Quit it, Naruto growled. It infuriated me that a man could be so deranged, so disconnected from humanity, that he could dismember even children in his experiments. I want to tear this sick excuse for a man limb from limb, then burn what's left until only ashes remain. His rage was so pure that it blotted out all his senses, robbing him of reason and leaving him only able to scream incoherently. The fun has just started, children. Orochimaru's old laboratory was, as always, empty and desolate, and there was no sign of the man. Jiraiya and Kurenai searched every inch of the sewers, even splitting up to cover a wider area, but to no avail. When his student faced his former teammate, a man who had once been his friend and who appeared to be the devil incarnate, the Sannin could take it no more. As it turned out, 2 years after leaving Konoha, Jiraiya had located Orochimaru by a stream just outside a village, whistling a haunting tune, and had approached him. They had a lengthy conversation, and the white-haired man clung to the hope that Orochimaru could still be saved. Jiraiya relaxed his defenses, thinking he had done what Sarutobi thought was impossible, thinking he had won his friend back by the strength and purity of his loyalty and devotion. He was overpowered by Orochimaru, who bound him in a small clearing with chains he could not break, and then he would bring the people of the nearby village in front of Jiraiya day after day. He would dissect, cut, and mutilate, leaving the white, haired man deeply scarred, and he would beg his friend to spare the old woman, the child, and the pregnant woman. He would roar and scream for the man to stop, screamed until he could no longer scream. But Orochimaru would always get his way and there was nothing he could do. Gods knew how long he would continue his terrible experiments, producing hideous creatures, until Orochimaru had released Jiraiya, his mind broken, and abandoned him in the wilderness, leaving not a soul in the village. Years passed before he finally understood what he had seen at the Sannin just lost in Wanderenga and why Orochimaru had spared him. Now, for the second time, he was filled with the same painful fear that his foolishness had cost him. Kurenai was unaware of the purpose of their mission and was perplexed by Jiraiya's outbursts and fear for Naruto. What could frighten the Sannin so much? Iruka was alarmed by his response to her news. Naruto never gave up, always struggling, always trying to break his bonds, and his anger reached new heights before he felt a power rise inside of him. It was a mixture of crimson rage and the darkest hate. The power was warm, but his uncontrollable rage caused it to turn red-hot. The old Hokage had told him, "It is a sin to give in to anger, a shinobi always keeps calm." He and the Hokage were under the sakura tree, and the slowly falling sakura petals gave the impression that the calm would last forever. You should never give in to it, even if you act like you do. What if they cause harm to your valued people? You advised me to keep my friends close at all times. What if my friends were harmed? Rage is simple to sense. Even when someone you don't know is harmed, you can sense it. Calmness will benefit you more than anger ever will. Naruto used all of his anger to unleash his power. Killing was all he wanted to do, regardless of who he killed. The chains, which appeared to have a mind of their own, wrapped around the accursed pale man and his assistant. Blood-red chains, stained by his blood, emerged from his body. His skin broke, more red fluid dripping to the ground. The sharp tips protruded from Naruto's chest, then suddenly burst out of his breast, sending shockwaves of pain through his body. Then he grinned and said, "Ah. Intriguing. This is the only ability I've ever heard of. Even among Uzushiyogakure's elites, it was uncommon. I'll love taking the secrets out of your body." The boy strained at his bonds while howling in bestial rage, and more chains materialized, easily tearing the shackles off and releasing Naruto. "You perish." The unbreakable links wrapped around the man's 4 limbs, then constricted, crushing the bone to dust. Then the blonde turned to face Kabuto, the assistant, who was trembling in terror and begging the angry boy to spare him as the chains whipped around, shearing Orochimaru's body in 2. Having had enough, Naruto willed the red chains to tear Kabuto apart, splattering hot, steaming blood throughout the chamber before dropping the lifeless torso and smashing the body until it was unrecognizable. Unfortunately, Kabuto, although he was a bright young man, he was easily replaced. He was crying over his poor bedridden mother the day I met him, and I can still remember that. How he begged people to assist him, however, he was disregarded by everyone. Aside from me. I said that he would work for me if I healed his mother. Regretfully, your rage has now killed him. Orochimaru's voice burst out laughing. Naruto turned and saw the snake-eyed man standing and whole as if nothing had happened, his chains aching for the blood of the snake-a, and he was determined to get it. With reckless abandon, he ripped and tore apart the smirking man in the most gory ways, but every time he did so, he would reappear and give Naruto that damnable smirk as though he were playing with him. "Yes. You want to kill me, I know that. Render me limb from limb, do it." The blonde was provoked by Orochimaru. Naruto let out a last choked scream and used all of his strength to infuse it with the chains that grew out of his body like an octopus's tentacles, turning black as spikes protruded from the tainted metal. My emotion tainted the metal. Naruto destroyed most of the laboratory by smashing them into Orochimaru, and the force caused the man to disintegrate. He reformed as usual. "Yes, destroy. This place is no longer useful to me." The chains then retracted as Naruto collapsed unconscious, leaving only the thrashed room and Kabuto's bloody corpse as evidence that they had ever been there. Orochimaru approached Naruto's lifeless body, in awe of his emotional intelligence. That he could extract such power from his rage, Alwana, what strength. "Grow, my child, grow hateful, give in to the darkness. I can already feel my former teammate coming. Don't forget me, Naruto. I'll be there to get you when you get stronger. I have to protect the world from the supernatural forces that are attempting to destroy it, but I have more important things to do right now. For now, I have what I wanted, a small portion of the Kyuubi's power. I will use this to find the other pieces of the puzzle, and when we cross paths again, true immortality will finally be within my grasp." Orochimaru took his ancient leather, bound book and left the village hidden in the leaves, disappearing in a cloud of smoke. A shower of splinters shattered the wood as Jiraiya and Kurenai rushed through the door. Damn it. I was too late. Orochimaru is gone again. I just sensed him not 2 minutes ago. What they saw was a scene of carnage that left the two stunned. Jiraiya sighed with relief as she hurried to Naruto's side. The boy was still alive, but why had the snake spared him? Kurenai pointed out another body on a white table, with the arms and legs cut open to show the bone underneath. Surely this was Sakura? Orochimaru hasn't implanted anything yet, but she needs a blood transfusion soon because she's already lost too much, and it's amazing that she's still alive. If we don't use antiseptic within the next 5 minutes, she won't be. Together, the two adults lifted the children's lifeless bodies and vanished in a whirl of leaves from the dark, dismal room. Unbeknownst to them, one of Orochimaru's creations, his final Onia, was crouched in the adjacent room. Its face was mutilated, but it vaguely resembled that of a female human, and it looked down to see its own reflection on a piece of mirror. It recoiled in horror and opened its mouth to scream. Its mouth was the only part sewn shut. After 2 days, Konoha Hospital. Naruto. How are you feeling? The blonde just lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling without responding. Jiraiya sighed. Orochimaru had really taken a toll on him. He had been acting this way since he had woken up. Come on Naruto, you can't lie there forever, talk to me. Quiet. With another defeated sigh, Jiraiya headed for the door, hoping that tomorrow would bring better news. He was about to open the door when he heard a voice that was unusually quiet. He was Gigi's student, wasn't he? Startled, Jiraiya returned to Naruto's side and sat on the stool once more. He was. The elderly man, however, was the greatest sensei imaginable. I'm not sure how he ended up this way. With his eyes blazing, Naruto turned to face Jiraiya and asked, how could such a man do that? Is he even a person? He had long since abandoned his humanity. He used to be a close friend, but now he is my worst adversary. Naruto declared resolutely, I will kill him for what he has done. I'll get stronger before I personally give you his head. In my life, Naruto, I have witnessed a lot of people who have been corrupted by retaliation. I share your sentiments, but remember that we are all human, and as such, we must always maintain our compassion. You will never succeed in your goals if you allow retaliation to control you, Jiraiya wisely advised. For several minutes, they sat in that position, in awkward silence. How is the girl doing? The girl with the pink hair that the bastard chopped off? Naruto asked. She's all right. It appears that she has amnesia and has forgotten the incident. She was unable to cope with the trauma. Remind Naruto that the incident is confidential. Don't tell anyone about it. I get it. Why am I here? Now teach me some new jutsu. Even now, he's far from broken. Jiraiya saw that the blonde had taken his words to heart when Naruto jumped out of his bed and shouted in a display of childish exuberance. He knew the blonde wasn't really happy, but was just diverting his attention from his own melancholy thoughts. You underestimate his strength, Orochimaru, after 3 years. 3 years had passed since Jiraiya had accepted him as a student. During that time, he had given his all during training, shedding blood, sweat, and guts. He was by no means a prodigy, much less naturally gifted in the ninja arts, but he had a natural aptitude for hard work. Jiraiya was not lenient by any means. He worked Naruto to the bone, putting him through rigorous physical conditioning and chakra training, and his days were filled with almost constant effort from the moment he woke up until he fell asleep on his bed. They would have undoubtedly broken long ago if it had been anyone less determined, but Naruto used the third Hokage's sacrifice as fuel to become the strongest he could be. Then there was the Orochimaru incident, where he thought he was smashing the snake-eyed bastard's face, and every time he hit the training dummy, and every time he practiced a new technique, he pictured it tearing through the pale man's body. The thing that most perplexed him was why he had spared him. Finally, he killed a man with chains emerging from his own body. Even though he was furious, he was able to recall every word that Orochimaru said. I still remember the day I met him, crying over his poor bedridden mother. He's dead now, killed by your anger. Naruto never once mentioned this to his teacher. No matter how hard he tried, he could never draw his chains out again. Then he remembered that he had killed a man. He remembered the man's pleading eyes, remembered as he tore him to pieces, spilling blood all over the room. He remembered how sick he felt when he first woke up after the incident, and he denied to speak to Jiraiya because he was still processing what he had done, not because of Orochimaru. However, he picked himself up with his iron-willed determination, as he always does, and refused to let the uncertainty control his life. He could still feel the warm blood hitting his face. He added this to the list of things he kept hidden from his mentor, and to say that he was unsure would be an understatement. Orochimaru had pointedly informed him that the Kyuubi was dead, which meant that he was no longer the Jinchūriki of Konoha. Despite his dislike of the man's perverted antics and lecherous behavior, Naruto found a good teacher and an even better friend in Jiraiya, who had repeatedly shown himself to be a fount of wisdom. Jiraiya was the strict but caring brother, much like Sarutobi was the father Naruto never had. The preparations for war began when Jiraiya was formally appointed Hokage a month after his arrival in Konoha. Food was stocked, weapons were hoarded, and the best of Konoha's warriors were outfitted with equipment made by the best blacksmiths in the Land of Fire. The Uchiha uprising had crippled Konoha militarily and psychologically, but it was by no means helpless. Jiraiya had made up his mind that he would see all of the Konoha ninjutsu including himself killed before giving up. In other words, they would stand to the very end. The women and children of the Leaf Village had safe houses prepared in case the situation got too bad, and escape routes were carefully planned out. During the years of the new Hokage's reign, there were frequent light skirmishes between Kumo and Konoha forces, which was evidence of the deteriorating situation. War would erupt at any time, and the only thing anyone could do was wait and hope for the best. 5 days after Naruto's birthday, the hordes of enemies swept into the village on that chilly winter morning, and many of them perished that day, piled up behind Konohagakure's great gates. The air was filled with clouds of black and blue flies that hung like smoke, creating a keening buzz that contrasted with a chorus of ragged screams that reverberated throughout the forest. A week before my name is Hana Inuzuka, daughter of clan head and famous Konoha Ninja Corps member Sume Inuzuka. I am a member of Konoha Scout Team 5, you could say it is a bit of my specialty, thanks to my heightened senses. After generations of living with our feral companions, the Ninken, we Inuzuka have developed similar traits. Our natural sight is far sharper than any other, and unmatched except by those who possess the Sharingan and Byakugan, and our sense of smell is so good that we can track down enemies who have left even weak-old trails. My closest friends are my Ninken, my companions in life and until death. The 3 Haimaru brothers were given to me during my coming of age ceremony after I had seen my 5th winter, and they have been a part of me ever since. Since their attempted kidnapping of the Hyuga clan heiress Hanabi Hyuga, things with Kumo have rapidly gotten worse. I never really liked the genin of Kumo, even before the incident happened. 6 years ago, a few months after I graduated from the academy, I was a part of a joint C-rank diplomatic mission with them. I didn't like their dark skin and the stench of arrogant superiority that seemed to cling to them. My sensei at the time, Hayate Gecko, had decided to accompany us on this joint C-rank diplomatic mission to escort an aristocratic official from the Land of Lightning back to the courts of the Land of Fire. The Kumo Genin sensei essentially took on the sole leadership role, insulting sensei and his apparent incompetence. The road was long and the path difficult, but eventually word spread that the aristocrat we were escorting was the Fire Daimyo himself in disguise, warlord of the province of the Land of Fire. My Genin teammates at the time were Kurenai Yuhi and Asuma Sarutobi, son of the third, both of whom I would trust to the end. Even in those days, they demonstrated their competence by easily defeating the numerous stupid bandits who blocked our path. Even though he was wearing a simple kimono dress at the time, it was obvious to all of us that he had seen his share of battle. Elite Missing Nin soon began attacking us, and we were fighting for our lives. He was a powerful man with many scars covering his body. The Kumo bastards revealed their true colors during the 5th attack, when a wiry man, who was alone and unassuming except for the bandages covering his entire body and the huge zanbato he was swinging around with ease, leapt in front of us. The team was already worn down from the previous attacks, but Zabuza Momochi did not give us a second to recover. The Kumo Junin and Hayate fought side by side until Zabuza cut Hayate's midsection, winding him. At this moment, the Kumo Junin lost it and succumbed to his cowardice, turning and running, even covering his tail with his own genin. All 3 of them died in a tragic attempt to defend their sensei. Even though the difference in skill was painfully obvious, we stood together and fought the man when we saw our own sensei down and out for the count. Ultimately, our sensei saved us by using all of his remaining strength to severely wound Zabuza while he was focused on us. He quickly left, but not before praising our teamwork, and oddly, we felt our hearts rise at his praise. Ultimately, without the Kumo Junin's help, we succeeded in finishing the mission, and the daimyo himself commended our skills, but we all started to despise Kumo. After hearing a few years ago that Hayate had been killed in the chaos of the Uchiha uprising, and then that Kurenai's entire Chunin team had been killed in a border skirmish, the new Hokage, Jiraiya Sama, assigned her to my Chunin team to serve as backup. It appears that our two villages are now on the verge of war, and there is nothing we can do to prevent it. I have two other teammates now, one of whom is Muda Aburame, a quiet man whose skills are impeccable and whose scouting abilities are among the best in Konoha. More recently, about a month ago, Jiraiya Sama assigned a midget, 11-year-old Brad to my team. She is a good friend who never backs down in the face of danger. Even on the few occasions when Scout Team 5 had encountered enemy scouts from Kumo or their allies from Suna, she had always stood her ground, creating illusions to cover our escape. His scouting abilities may be rudimentary, but I dare say he has the best combat skills of all of us. I expected no less, as Kurenai had told me the new Hokage had personally trained him. He is young, but surprisingly competent, and undoubtedly attractive, though shorter than many of the boys his age. He has a head of striking blonde hair and eyes of the deepest blue. However, I have my doubts. He is too young to fight in the war. Kids should enjoy their youth while they can. Skill and ability are limited. Experience is essential for survival, and in the field, it's kill or be killed. It will soon become clear whether he can handle his first kill. Even though the boy is a student of Jiraiya Sama, I have frequently questioned his choice to include him on my team, so you can imagine how shocked I was when the Hokage informed me that the blonde had made the decision. The man had stated, "I have tried to reason with him, tried to get him to escape to the safe houses with the women, children, and academy students, but he is adamant about this, and he has made it clear he would do anything to help out in the imminent war. I can assure you that once my student makes up his mind, it cannot be changed." On this winter eve, we are currently on border patrol, watching for any potential threats to Konoha. As I watch him, with those fiery blue eyes, I can only wonder what drives him. Sometimes he seems so vivacious, so full of energy, but at times like these, when we never know what enemy might be waiting for us, he seems to be barely controlling his suppressed anger. That clenched jaw, those tense muscles, maybe he's reconsidering? What was there to make him angry? To say he was furious would be an understatement. Jiraiya had warned him that war would start in as little as a week, and that Naruto was to go with the next group of women and children to the safe houses 5 miles from Konoha, ostensibly to protect them from any potential danger. Naruto jumped from tree to tree, keeping his teammates in sight. Naruto knew better. His sensei was only attempting to prevent him from fighting on the front lines. The blonde acknowledged that the man loved him and was attempting to protect him, but given his heroic attempts to strengthen himself, it was an insult to him to be denied the opportunity to defend Konoha. "I have been waiting for this chance to test my strength," he said when he went to Jiraiya's office the day before to get an explanation. "You can't deny me this opportunity." "Naruto, wars are fought with blood and the lives of men," Jiraiya sternly rebuked him, returning to the grating tone he always used when lecturing Naruto. "Testing your strength is not appropriate. After the next 2 patrols, you will be removed from Scout Team 5 and placed in charge of the rear guard of the evacuating population. I know you feel the need to get stronger to make sure Hiruzen's sacrifice wasn't in vain, but this is going too far. I have nothing more to say." Naruto was angry, but he knew there was nothing he could do about it, so he decided it would be best to ignore it. He was startled out of his reverie by his Inuzuka team leader's warning. "There are enemy ninja just outside the forest perimeter. 4 at least, 7 at most. They appear to have affinities primarily for wind and lightning, according to Muda's Kakaichu. Due to the heavy snowfall, visibility is low. We should move closer." Silently, Naruto drew his kunai, and if the worst happened, there would be a full-scale skirmish. The team would need to investigate the group further before reporting back. Counting 7 ninja camped nearby, they moved stealthily toward the clearing. They maintained their vigilance, focusing entirely on the adversary. Muda reported the information obtained from his bugs in his usual monotone. 7 enemy ninja were confirmed, 4 of whom were confirmed to be from Kumo, and 3 of whom were confirmed to be from Suna. The subject's heavily muffled chakra presence suggests that they are a part of a stealth team. Hana nodded quickly at this point, saying, "Retreat in order. Go ahead, Muda. We'll cover the tracks." Shining slivers of metal were interwoven with the sturdy ropey fibers, and before Muda could move, dark nets descended upon the shinobi, effectively trapping them and sending them tumbling to the snow. Covered ground from the branches cursing. Metal suppressing chakras. Damn it. The 7 ninjas suddenly surrounded the group. One of Tama, ostensibly the team leader, stepped forward and said, "Well done, Kaoru." His deep, booming voice said, "These bastards don't know who they're dealing with." The man was dressed in the typical gray stealth armor, which was sleeveless for maximum mobility. His arms were sinewy and muscular, and they had a mass of scar tissue like the rest of his bare body. An 8th member, wearing a white cloak that made him virtually invisible in the snow. covered landscape and a hood that concealed his face and features, fell to the ground, spraying snow as his feet touched the frozen ground. "It appears we got all three of them," the member said. "Do we need to summon the interrogation team?" "By all means," was the leader's curt response. Hana spat at the ninja leader, yelling, "We'll never tell you anything, bastards," with all the defiance she possessed. Kurenai and Muda gave their assents in unison. "They say that all the time." With no trace of rage showing on his face, the Kumo ninja remarked, "Remember your defiance when you spill your secrets." "As if we do that at all," Kurenai retorted angrily. "Well, you're a beautiful one," said one of the Kumo ninja, glancing at her with lustful eyes as the other ninja turned to face her without considering her pathetic attempt at resistance. "You are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my life. I promise, imagine what we could accomplish together." "It's up to Naruto now." Kurenai shuddered at the thought and flinched back in horror. "Naruto watched the exchange from the top of the tree, and since I was the rear guard, I was fortunate they didn't notice me. He was caught in this situation for the first time and was barely able to handle all the ninja on his own, but he had to take action before the interrogators reached his team. I can use this to my advantage because, based on their satisfied expressions, they probably believe they got all of us." Naruto's muscles tensed as he prepared for battle. "This may be the dumbest thing I'm going to do, but it's worth a try. My chakra capacity can definitely come in handy here." Pulling down his hood, Naruto silently raised his hand in a familiar hand seal while wearing a warm white cloak. Mixing 50 solid Kage Bunshin shadow clones into a few hundred Bunshin clones should do it. "With my hood covering my face, they won't be sure whether I'm the same person or a clone," Naruto said. As if sensing the sudden presence of chakra, the 8 ninja looked around in confusion as the clones appeared with silent puffs of smoke. The leader yelled some commands, but Naruto was unable to hear them due to the howl of the wind. The effect was instantaneous. The 8 ninja instantly fell into chaos, mistaking the various shouts as indications that they had discovered a much larger Konoha force than they had anticipated. The clone army descended upon the group of ninja with howls and shouts. "Go back. They're too numerous," one of them called, his eyes full of fear. But the dark-skinned leader was not to be deceived. Cocking a fist back, he delivered a forceful blow that struck a Bunshin and made it vanish. "Remain firm. These are just regular Clonisa UFF. We don't know how many real ninja are mixed with the clones," the leader said, coughing and winded from a very solid fist striking his midsection. He then bounded back and rallied his ninja. Naruto, his clones, and his 3 teammates were left in the clearing after the Kumo assault group appeared to be overpowered and retreated. "Clones. Keep up with them and give us time to get away." As he cut through the nets and assisted his teammates in getting up, Naruto gave the order. The team was now free to forge their path back to Konoha. Hana Inuzuka was surprised that Naruto could even perform the shadow clone technique, a feat not all Junin could master. And the stamina he had shown. The strain of maintaining that many clones could tire out even the best in Konoha, but Naruto didn't seem to be exhausted. Hana Inuzuka had not anticipated being caught by such a simple ruse, and she cursed the fact that she had been so careless. Previously, she could only hope Naruto would call for reinforcements on time, but now she could look at him with fresh eyes. "Well done, Naruto," she said, giving him a pat on the back and pointing to Kurenai and Muda. "Let's deliver the report to the Hokage now." "You saved us, even though you were just a child," Hana whispered in Naruto's ear as they ran out of the clearing. "You have my attention, Naruto, and I have no doubt that you will become a skilled ninja." "Don't bring it up, I'm just doing my job," Naruto said, meeting her gaze. "At least I occasionally succeed." At that moment, he stumbled as the memories of his clones struck him like a brick wall. Office of the Hokage. Which caused the enemy to become distracted and let us escape. Hana wrapped up her report to the Hokage, who was then examining the unkempt blonde. Naruto used the Kage Bunshin and Bunshin techniques. "You can go now. Please stay, Naruto. I need to talk to you about some things," Jiraiya said. Jiraiya gestured for Naruto to sit while staring at him inquisitively as the doors closed behind his teammates, leaving him alone with his teacher. "What?" Naruto, clearly uncomfortable, asked. Calmly, Jiraiya remarked, "I didn't know you could use the Kage Bunshin no jutsu." Naruto's eyes widened instantly. You see, he bluffed, or at least attempted to. I copied it after seeing some Junin use it." Jiraiya snarled and narrowed his eyes. Really? Didn't it have nothing to do with some kind of forbidden scroll? With a sigh, Naruto admitted that he had indeed taken the scroll from the library's forbidden chambers those years ago, when Orochimaru had sent his creation to infiltrate the Hokage's residence. Naruto was now perspiring a great deal, and he knew Jiraiya had caught him. "No need to worry, Naruto. I just wanted to scare you for once," Jiraiya said abruptly, without any apparent reason. Although the jutsu in the scroll were once prohibited during the reigns of the first and second Hokage, it is true that many Junin are now familiar with the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, even though few are proficient in its use. "I know you have enormous chakra reserves, but many of the jutsu found in that scroll will kill you anyway," he said in a serious tone. "Since you can't use many of them anyhow, I'll let you have it. You see, most of them need bloodlines to learn. Discipline must be maintained as usual, though. Any attempt to evade this will be considered insubordination. As a punishment, you will be removed from Scout Team 5 with immediate effect and placed with the teams protecting the evacuating population. Additionally, you won't be permitted to fight any adversaries. Listen to me, Naruto. The war won't last very long. We will be completely destroyed, or we will completely destroy our adversaries. So be patient. You know what you have to do, because if we lose, people will turn to the surviving shinobi for protection. It is very unlikely that a compromise of any kind will be reached," Jiraiya said solemnly. Naruto nodded and sighed before vanishing in a whirlpool of foliage. A few days later, Naruto was part of the escort protecting the group of women and children as they left the village through the southern entrance, which was the safest route at the time and had been selected as the escape path despite being infrequently used due to its location directly above the Hokage monument. Naruto watched as the women said tearful goodbyes to the warriors, making sincere promises and exchanging personal mementos. Some embraced each other tightly, as if dreading the moment of separation. The morning rays filtered through the clouds and hit the white carpet of snow that covered the village rooftops. However, everything must come to an end, and the procession of civilians entered the gate slowly and tearfully. Naruto was the last to depart. He was the rear guard and would make sure that any remaining people were not left behind. Even now, some people could not help but give him glares and hateful looks, but none of them came close to him. Naruto could still see the figures in the village observing them as the group moved away from Konoha. After that, there was nothing left to see as the gates closed. It was in the middle of winter, and the group traveled across the cold, slightly inclined terrain leading into the distance. All sounds were blotted out by the incessant howl of the wind, and the steady fall of snow obscured Naruto's vision. He was hard pressed to see 20 meters in front of himself. In the distance, a great mountain range reaching up to the heavens was looming. The ragged tips of the mountains were all that could be discerned in the colorless, gray sky. Naruto estimated that about 100 civilians were being evacuated. This was the last group heading to the safe houses further south. Although Naruto was not an official ninja, the Hokage personally included him in the guard force. He was to report to the Chunin leader on a regular basis on the group's status. The guard was composed of 5 genin squads, with their Junin instructors left behind to strengthen the village defenses. The group slowed down around 5 hours into the trek because the elderly couldn't travel for extended periods of time in such severe weather, so breaks had to be carefully planned. Naruto headed to the center of the group to get to know the Chunin in charge, and you can only imagine how shocked he was to see a tall, red-eyed woman. "Kurenai-san. I had no idea you were in charge of this evacuation team," Naruto shouted. Kurenai turned when her name was called. "Naruto-kun. It's good to see you, Hokage. Sama believed that rather than engaging in direct combat, my abilities would be better used to aid in the village's evacuation. However, I will need to return to reinforce the ninja corps once we arrive at the safe houses in approximately a week. Have you got anything to report? There is little visibility, and the back is considerably more slick. The continuous pounding of feet must be the reason why all the snow has loosened up. I understand. Well done, return to your station, and be careful," Kurenai said, shoving Naruto aside. Naruto saluted, put his hood back on, and trudged back down the line, but as he did so, a head of indigo hair caught his eye. "Is that?" The figure spun around, revealing large lavender eyes before he could finish thinking. Hinata. Naruto, who had not spoken to the girl in a long time, stepped forward to greet her, wondering at the coincidence. "Hinata, is that you? I nearly missed seeing you," Naruto spoke quietly. Hinata's face instantly turned red for some reason, and she was blushing wildly now, suddenly acutely conscious that she was looking at the person she loved. Naruto-kun. What are you doing in this place?" The girl pressed her fingers together and stammered. "Oh, I was made an escort by Jiraiya. You're here, but why?" Naruto asked. "As far as I know, the majority of the academy students and genin were evacuated last week." Hinata's voice trembled as she said, IW. Was cataloging all the scrolls we had in the library and picking out some of the more precious ones to take along. It's been a long time to see him, so what should I say? All right, I'm leaving. I feel funny when I'm talking to her. How strange, Naruto remarked, massaging the back of his head and moving a little faster than before back down the line. Hinata became alarmed at this point. He had just met her and was leaving so quickly. Wait. Naruto.kun. To her horror, it was too late. The blonde had already vanished into the snow when she uttered the words as loudly as she could. Returning to Konoha after several days as he stood at the top of the village battlements, Jiraiya looked forward. The ninja on guard were buffeted by hail, the village was more deserted than ever, and the silence heightened the tension in the air. Here, the only thing separating us from their natural cover, the forests, are these wide fields. Normally, we could defend this area with simple kunai and jutsu, but with visibility this low and a lack of manpower, we have to divide our attention between conserving chakra and aiming at the enemy. Because of the weather, they could distract us enough to send a stealth team behind our lines if they attack now. The north and east gates are the most likely places they would attack, as the west and south gates are fortified by natural cliffs and traps. If they attack from that direction, it would be easy to distract them by producing avalanches, then destroying them. Every kunai counts, so it would be safe to assume that they have severed our supply lines since supplies have recently failed to reach the village. The majority of the Leaf's ninja population, nearly 1,500 shinobi, were gathered behind Jiraiya, who checked his forces because they were already afraid of dying, and if they were psychologically defeated, the real battle would be lost before it even began. Ninja of the Leaf, the death god comes, Jiraiya said solemnly, summoning all his strength to address his soldiers. Many of you will pass through the underworld's gates before the day is over. We are thrown into a world of violence and hatred from the moment of our birth until the day of our death. As children, we struggle with the idea of death and the destruction we are called to cause rather than worrying about material, worldly things. Since we are shinobi, the best weapons in combat, sin and dishonor have tarnished the souls of all of you. Since all we have as men and women who walk the path of darkness is one another, we are forged in fire and our ties are as tempered as the strongest steel. Beyond these walls, our brethren are stalking the shadows tonight. They have lived in the shadows just like us and kill like shinobi should. And do your faces show that fear? How pitiful of us to be so weak in the face of the enemy. We are no different. To those who do not comprehend the ninja endurance path, we are all demons in human form, cursed and undeserving of salvation. However, I can tell you that those who want to fight with us are only human, and as such, they are susceptible to being broken, crushed, and made to feel pain. So tonight, as the bell tolls for our hour of death, let us show them that we are not known as the strongest, the fittest, the best and the greatest ninja that Japan has ever known. All of us men are doomed. Any hope we may have had for paradise in the afterlife has been destroyed by our sins. However, let's meet death with a positive attitude. A black fire, tainted by years of dealing death, burned in every heart and mind around them. The Leaf Ninja prepared themselves as a group, removing any hint of uncertainty from their stance. Dark shadows darted back and forth behind the snow wall, and the battle was joined as the dark figures blazed across the battlefield as one. Long distance, nighttime Naruto sat alone on a snow-covered tree, his head tilted upward, staring at silver specks of light hanging in the sky. The night was cold and black. I understand that we are merely hired soldiers, mercenaries, but why would anyone ever consent to give up their humanity, and for what benefit? Is it power, wealth, or fame? There was a shuffle of feet, and he turned his head languidly to see Kurenai sitting on a nearby tree top, joining him in his reflection. It was an uncommon sight. The cold seemed to accentuate the otherworldly beauty of the woman next to him, and she really did appear to be a goddess. Naruto could feel his heart rate rising, as is normal when one witnesses the pinnacle of beauty up close. We hide behind our excuses, claiming that we do it because we have to, but is that really the case? Why are even the most beautiful of us so ugly on the inside? Occasionally, we are fortunate enough to be hired to murder men who share our perverted beliefs, but other times, we murder those who are standing up for a righteous cause merely for the benefit of ourselves or those in positions of authority. Because they want better lives and have their own opinions, people rebel against authority. Who are we to force our will on others? Naruto, what is your dream? Kurenai startled the blonde boy by asking abruptly. To become the strongest and make the world a better place. Kurenai was one of Naruto's few friends. She had frequently taught him the ways of the ninja, and her knowledge had been very helpful to him. Suddenly, Naruto realized how much he valued their friendship. She was always there to listen when he needed someone to talk to, and he was always there to keep her company. She muttered, just loud enough for Naruto to hear, "I have my own dream too, Naruto. I have many dreams. I want to become the strongest too, the most renowned in my field," she said. "In addition to inspiring others, my top priorities are finding a loving partner and achieving happiness. Do you believe I can accomplish all of that?" Then she joked, "Of course, I would like to eliminate all the perverts in the world, but that might prove impossible." Naruto sighed and said, "I really think you can do it. We are both capable of realizing our goals." Kurenai gazed into Naruto's eyes and said bitterly, "You know, when the Hokage assigned me here, I actually felt like I was left out because of my weakness." After they had briefly shared the cozy silence, Hana and Muda were permitted to remain because it appeared that they were stronger, "but I had to protect the civilians while praising you kids." "You know," Naruto laughed, "I was experiencing the same thing. Isn't it true that we are alike?" "Yes. Well, I need to go to bed. I can't be sleeping tomorrow because I am currently the officer in command. Night." The woman then vanished in a whirlpool of foliage. "Some of us don't choose what we do, and I plan to change that in the future. Ugliness is relative." Back in Konoha, night was falling. The battle had come to an end. Both sides were withdrawing to tend to their wounded. The sky was painted a dark red, the occasional lightning strike illuminating the darkening heavens, and a miasma of death hung over the battlefield. The stench of blood so strong even the most seasoned of shinobi was hard-pressed not to retch. Enemies surrounded the village, cutting off all supply routes and preventing reinforcements from arriving. Where Konoha shinobi lay dying, hospitals were overflowing, and those whose injuries were too severe were left where they had fallen, moaning as their lifeblood pooled beneath their prone bodies. Blood had been spilled so much that even the raindrops were tinted red, and it appeared as though the Leaf Village was drowning in blood as icy droplets fell from the sky, covering Konoha and the battlefield. The moon, white as ever, glared down, eternally unsympathetic and apathetic, and as the night grew darker still, voices could be heard singing and mourning the fate of the dead. In Konoha's last breath, Hyuga worked next to Uchiha, bound together by a common enemy, piling the bodies of both comrades and enemies, and giving them a final farewell in the form of mass funeral pyres. The pyres were still burning at midnight, and a wind blew up, scattering the cremated ashes and saturating the Leaf Village walls with the remains of the dead. Jiraiya, the fifth Hokage, had endured it all and remained awake. He appeared to be a fearsome combatant, tireless and unending, but ironically, he had never felt so old and withered. The number of casualties had not been this high since the Kyuubi's attack, and this was just the preemptive strike of the beginning of the end. After a long day, the invaders had finally been forced back, and they would return tomorrow. The following day, miles away. "Get back there quickly. Before the snow starts up again, we must cross the mountain pass. We are already behind schedule," Kurenai yelled. "If it weren't for these civilians, I could make it to the safe houses and back in a single day." The morning had been slow, the day had begun as usual, and the group had been further slowed down by the complaints of the civilians about the state of the road and the fact that many of the elderly had fallen and needed to be carried. To ensure that no enemy ninja could follow the group back to the safe houses, Naruto painstakingly erased their tracks behind them. The darkness of the night was chased away by the morning rays of sunlight, and the air was clear for once, with smoke rising from Konohagakure in the distance. However, eliminating the traces of 100 individuals was not a simple task, and Naruto was experiencing some annoyance. They were unaware that one dark-skinned Kumo ninja was observing everything they did. After 7 hours down the line, the groans of weary civilians echoed. The ninja considered snail-paced travel to be an insult to their physical abilities, but the untrained men and women were already at their breaking point. It seemed that their patience was wearing thin and that the cursed child was too close to them, as they were now complaining openly, and their fatigue had caused multiple angry outbursts at Naruto. Fortunately, Naruto did not travel with the others. He was alone at the back, slowly hiding his tracks, and no one could harm him. He was no longer the helpless kid the villagers had beaten all those years ago, but he had no desire to use his ninja abilities against civilians. "Even though they may be illogical and foul-mouthed, I don't want to get my hands dirty with their blood. I will never kill without cause because, after all, this is nothing new." The group was moving in single file along the steep mountain road, with a bottomless chasm to the left and a sheer rock cliff to the right that led up to a snowy peak that towered high into the sky. After several days of non-stop climbing, the ground was no longer visible to those who walked on the narrow road. When Naruto looked up, he saw an outcropping that appeared to be about to collapse, and a middle-aged woman with bright pink hair walked directly in front of him, beneath the weathered overhang. The rock broke off and fell down the cliff with a loud, crumbling sound, directly at the modest woman. Almost instinctively, Naruto sprang forward, grabbed the woman by the waist, and bounded forward, saving her from a gory end. He sighed with relief and put the woman down, only to be slapped across the face. "Why you made me feel? Demons appear. Defiler," she screamed, but she didn't stop there. Like a banshee, she threw profanities that Naruto was unaware existed. "Hold on. You would have perished if I hadn't done that," Naruto shouted in an attempt to clarify his position. He had a horrible migraine from the woman's constant shrieking in his ears, and now that he thinks about it, she looks a lot like that girl from the academy. At last, he stopped defending his behavior and stood with his ears covered when a loud voice that Naruto knew to be Kurenai's yelled, "What's all that commotion? The day is not ours. Will you stop talking and continue walking?" Without even bothering to glance at Naruto, the woman stood up and strode forward while muttering something sinister under her breath. Naruto thanked Kurenai in silence and carried on with the adventure. As the Chunin leader signaled for a brief break, the long line of evacuees stopped, and Naruto could barely see anything as they trudged on, farther and farther up the mountain, until the air grew thin and breathing became difficult. Then the enemy struck. 4 Kumo shinobi rushed the group from behind, running headlong into the blonde as they popped out from under the white. An unfortunate old man was electrocuted and sent plummeting down the mountain as a result of the ninja's lightning bolts and muffled cries of jutsu names. Naruto cursed and drew his kunai, flashing through hand seals and shouting, "Fuden! Juha Reppo Sho, Wind Style! Beast Wave Violent Wind Strike!" The blonde was surrounded by his opponents, who, to his dismay, leapt above the carelessly aimed technique. Damn! These must be scouts. They must have sneaked past the village while they were busy defending themselves. I can't let them fin. Naruto's thoughts were cut short by a strong punch that wounded him in the gut. Now, the civilians were in disarray, yelling and running, scurrying past one another as they tried to flee. Their faces were marked with fear. Before the man had a chance to pull his arm away from the punch, Naruto grabbed another kunai from his boot and slammed it point first into his crotch. The man screamed in agony and fell back, but Naruto followed through, slicing off his genitalia while punching him in the face. He heard Kurenai and the other genin running to his aid from behind, and Naruto bounded back without a word, his arms raised in a defensive stance. Alongside Naruto, Kurenai materialized in a puff of smoke and began assessing the enemies right away. "Just advanced scouts, nothing we can't handle." Kurenai performed her magic while the other 3 ninja moved forward, priming 3 paper bombs and muttering, "Genjutsu. Shoshinka. Illusion technique. Butterfly fireworks," only to watch the 3 move forward. The ninja were exposed as clones, puffing out of existence as she frantically threw the primed paper bombs at them. They detonated with a loud explosion. A dark, skinned figure arose from the smoke, kunai aimed directly at the blonde's heart, moving too quickly for Naruto to even start to react. A shadow darting across his vision faster than he could keep up with it, and drops of red fluid spattering his face. When his eyes opened, he saw first a pair of lovely lavender tinted eyes, and then a piece of metal protruding from the figure's shoulder. "Hinata. Chan? She protected me with her own body." He could just see her mouthing words that oddly resembled the letters that comprised his name, Naruto.kun. He readied his weapon again, but this time Naruto was prepared for him. The ninja, bristling with annoyance, drew his kunai roughly, sending Hinata flying into the mountainside with a backhand. "Fuden. Juha Reppo Sho. How dare you hurt her?" screamed Naruto, slicing through the man's torso with his sharpened winds and splattering blood on the ground. Naruto and Kurenai were caught off guard as hands exploded from the ground, grabbing their legs and throwing them off the mountain with unnatural strength before they could react any further. With a quick thought, Naruto turned his body, directing chakra into his hand and sticking it to the sheer cliff's surface. Kurenai was flung too far away to have any chance of making it to the cliff. "No! Kurenai!" Naruto let out a frantic cry, and 8 clones appeared with a single hand seal, each clinging to the others like a human ladder. The clone that was farthest away swung up and caught Kurenai, preventing her from falling to her death. "You leaf ninja are weak. It seems the years have dulled your edge," Naruto said, looking up to see the 2 remaining Kumo ninja grinning to themselves and staring at them. "In your final moments, remember that Kumo will replace Konoha when it falls." They then pulled out their kunai, determined to put an end to the altercation. "I'm grateful that my sensei taught me the fundamentals of manipulating Earth's elements." Naruto bared his teeth in rage and smashed his free hand against the wall while muttering, "Doden. Iwa Nader, Earth style. stone avalanche. The Kumo ninja were surprised by the branching cracks in the rock, but eventually the cliff could take no more. Rocks rolled down into the abyss and broke off, and then the entire cliff face collapsed with a crack, sending all of them crashing down the mountain. Please be okay, Hinata. Chan. I can only hope the other genin finds you. Naruto's final thought was about Hinata and if she would be okay. A return to Konoha the following morning. Jiraiya sat at the head of the war council, remaining silent while the other clan heads and elders debated which tactics were best to commit to. Uncertainty was high and the last battle had claimed many lives. It was true that 3 enemy ninja fell for every leaf ninja, but that still did not bode well for the village. The invading force was made up of both Kumo and Suna ninja, and there were rumors that Kiri would also fight on Kumo's side. Overall, Konoha was greatly outnumbered. The Aburame clan's peculiar behavior was perhaps the most unsettling. Normally, the clan would present well-supported opinions that were effective, but for some reason, it had remained completely silent since the beginning of the session. As their adversaries consolidated their position and prepared for another attack, the Hokage finally had enough of the arguments and slammed his hands on the table before raising his voice and grabbing the others' attention. Quiet. The north gate will be occupied by 18 Junin squads, while the east gate will be occupied by the remaining squads. The remaining Chunin squads will be dispersed between the west and south gates. The Yamanaka, Inoichi, please assume responsibility, will handle all internal communications. And Chunin reinforcements will be divided if absolutely required. Our top goal is to destroy that by the end of this month, preferably this week, as reinforcements from Iwa will not be able to arrive if the Suna blockade persists. The enemy is waiting, so get to your stations now. Jiraiya then walked out of the council room, miles away. He opened his eyes again and was met with a bitter, coppery taste. Every muscle in his body throbbed with pain. He was shocked to discover that he was still alive. Damn it! How many times in my life will I come close to death? He sat up, only to have a sharp pain shoot up his spine, and then he recognized the vaguely familiar shape of a human body. It was too much for his stomach to handle, and Naruto vomited bile and saliva, smearing the ground. He had been lying in a sludgy substance, and when he looked down, he could just make out pulverized flesh and an odd gray substance. The Kumo ninja was unfortunate enough to land directly beneath me. He must have perished instantly at the impact. The trees are tall, and their branches are intertwined. They must have broken my fall. Naruto looked up and saw the sun rising. I must have been out for a while because it's already morning. I'm sorry my cloak is torn, because it's freezing. The crimson-eyed beauty's battered and bruised body was tangled in the thick branches of an oak tree a few minutes later. Naruto scouted the area while shivering, trying to find any sign of Kurenai's body. He scaled the trunk and cut the branches, catching the woman's limp body and placing her on the ground. She's still alive, but her leg is broken, so I'll need to get help. Naruto must have felt like the world's unluckiest person at that moment, as he was surrounded by a sizable contingent of enemy ninja just 10 minutes after waking from a state of unconsciousness brought on by certain death. You know what? Fuck everyone, probably not the best idea, Naruto yelled. The blonde, estimated to be close to 50 ninja, surrounded Naruto, who was already exhausted, and bound him to the oak tree with ropes laced with metal that suppressed chakras. Whatever we did to you, why are you treating us like this? A one-eyed ninja, wearing a full head of gray and with an eye patch over his left eye, stepped forward as Naruto yelled. You defame the shinobi's name because you leaf ninja are weak. You shame us as a result. Here, tell us where you cowards have hidden your people, and you might die painlessly, the man said sarcastically. My name is Kosuke Hirameki, and my job is to extract information from you. Naruto spat at his face, seething. The man flinched back in disgust, sputtered in anger, and looked at the woman on the ground who was stirring. So, you refuse to talk? I'll say it again. Tell us what you know, or this woman will soon be in pain. I will always be loyal to my Hokage, Naruto shouted in defiance. When Kurenai opened her eyes, she discovered that she was encircled by adversaries, her blonde friend was bound to a tree, and there was no way out. A dull pain in her leg was something she vaguely remembered. You still won't speak? Her leg appears to be broken. What occurs if I do this? After saying that, the man pulled out a serrated knife, positioned it at Kurenai's leg knee, and began to cut. I can't let her die, but I can't betray the people of Konoha. Jiraiya trusted me to protect them. The agony rushed through her body, causing her to scream. Naruto was horrified by the shriek, which sliced him right to the bone. The blade sliced through flesh with a sickening squelching sound, then struck something solid, but the man was unfazed and pushed through bone and sinew, her screams heartbreaking and downright terrifying. Kurenai silenced the blonde, who could take no more, and between gasps, she pleaded feebly with Naruto, "Don't talk. Naruto.kun. Never turn on someone, your pals." Now, tears were streaming down her cheeks, and Naruto's mouth was making quiet sobs. The man paused abruptly and said, "Such fortitude is admirable. It seems, more must be done to convince our blonde friend." Kurenai screamed louder as he threw away the knife and then proceeded to tear the leg off. "Guys, enjoy the pleasure of her body." Naruto watched in horror as the laughing men, who seemed to enjoy the pain they caused, smirked and cackled in their insanity as they violated one of his only friends in the world. The fight was gone from Kurenai's eyes, and now she lay there, helpless, staring at the bound boy with beseeching eyes, naked and whimpering as the men had their way with her on the blood-stained ground. Since she was no longer able to muster the strength to scream, Naruto screamed for her, raising his voice and berating the heavens for subjecting him and his companions to such horrors. Nothing could save them from his wrath. He felt pain clutch at his heart, a sadness so deep he drowned in it. His anger welled up inside him, hardening his heart and stealing his gaze. After a harrowing hour, Naruto gradually began to use his power, cursing the fact that he was so helpless and unable to defend those who were important to him. The men, pleased, then cut her throat like they would a trapped animal, allowing her to choke on her own blood. He was lost, and as those blood-red chains exploded from his body, tearing his cloak, tearing through his bonds, and destroying the great oak tree he was bound against, he gave in to righteous fury. Power more powerful than he could handle rose inside him, and as he opened his mouth to scream again, it was a demonic offering to the god of death, not the hoarse cry of a broken and defeated opponent, but a blue power that radiated from his wide-eyed eyes and gaping maw, and he let out bloody cries. The Kumo ninja stopped in their tracks. Whereas they had previously been moving toward Naruto, determined to carry on their ministrations, fear now arose behind the eyes that had watched so pathetically as they soiled the blonde's friend. Additional chains sprang from Naruto, causing his body to tremble with excruciating pain. The lynx seized two of the men nearest to him, and with a silent command, they tightened, exploding in bloody showers. The ninja were throwing kunai and jutsu at him in a panic, but the chains, acting of their own volition, repelled the pitiful attempts to prevent their death. The chains lifted Naruto, embedding themselves on the ground, acting as his feet. In a display of extreme cruelty, Naruto willed the lynx as though they were organic parts of his body, tearing the terrified ninja apart as they attempted to run away. He strung the bodies up, impaling everyone in his path with a single chain, like beads on a string. And they struggled, writhing in vain as they attempted to avoid death, only to have more of the bloody metal wrap around their necks and pull their heads off. Finally, only one man was facing the blonde, the same one-eyed man who had started the rape and torture, but he fought to the end, blubbering in terror as all of Naruto's chains drove into his chest before tearing him apart and scattering bits of steaming, bloody flesh all over the place. Naruto could see black plumes of smoke rising from Konoha in the distance. The sun was shining brightly now, and the snow had mostly stopped. With his heart still full of bloodlust, Naruto continued to move forward, unsure of the nature of the power that allowed him to kill men as if they were nothing, but determined to exact revenge. "I'm going to kill them all. Kill everyone. Destroy everything. It appears that you will not be living out your dreams." He turned and covered Kurenai's body. The following day, as the village leader, Jiraiya was responsible for protecting the village, which is why many more enemies would be killed today for the honor of Konoha. He stood radiant in his armor, with large, shining pieces of metal covering him protectively from head to toe. The Hokage, however, had been severely damaged by the preceding days. Dark rings encircled his eyes, and he swayed slightly in the wind, his muscles aching from too much effort. In the brief field that led up to Konohagakure, he could see the dead piled up. It had turned into a veritable killing field, and the cold did little to stop the stench emanating from the heaps of rotting flesh. Despite only destroying a tenth of their forces, we have killed almost 200 of the nearly 2,000 members of the invading ninja force, according to my estimation. How long will this war last, and how many more people will perish? For their own self-serving economic and social gain, Kumo has invaded our home in an attempt to establish themselves as the most powerful hidden village, and enjoy the benefits of greater financial attention, but at what cost? At the top of the battlements, the Konoha ninja held their ground, the chakra shields absorbing any incoming jutsu and preventing the ninja from approaching, and a hail of kunai fell upon the invaders, ravaging vast swaths and leaving dead and dying. A horn sounded in the distance, signaling the beginning of the attack. The blurry outlines of ninja blazed across the field faster than any normal human could follow. sending lightning bolts and massive gusts of wind toward the defenders. The chakra barrier was then struck and overloaded by a single, more powerful electrical bolt that pierced the snow-covered terrain. Damn. They combined their chakra and let loose a lightning jutsu. If this continues, our walls will collapse. Jiraiya prepared his own kunai, hands ready to dash through his hand seals. He was about to order Konoha's assault teams to charge into the fray and fight close quarters when a demon howl swept across the terrain. Both sides temporarily halted their fighting, their heads lifted in wonder and curiosity at the origin of the icy roar, and from the west a lone figure covered in blood moved above the treetops. Most fascinating were what appeared to be the numerous shiny appendages that hung from the body, serving as its limbs and bringing it slowly and steadily forward. Time had appeared to have stopped. The body was completely red, from his hair to his clothes, drenched in blood, and then it vanished, only to reappear in the middle of the battlefield, shocking everyone in its wake. Those unfortunate enough to be caught in the vicious attack were smashed to bloody pulps, their limbs torn off and flung into the air by the sheer force of the figure's body, which resembled a god striking the unworthy by wrapping its appendages, which were actually chains, into great balls of steel and smashing them into the ground and cratering the area. And throughout it all, you could hear the bloodied figure's incessant yelling, as though it were a prophet condemning the heretics gathered in front of it.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.